Chapter 86, Smash. You don't have to inform us. We have overheard everything. Wang Xian frowned upon hearing their conversation and walked over slowly. Director Cui was slightly shocked and looked at Wang Xian in surprise. However, he quickly recovered and maintained a smile on his face. I'm really sorry about this, brother, but this pink Bentley has been ordered by someone. If you would still like to have it, you could wait a month and I'll get the Bentley headquarters to custom make one for you. There should be a sequence in buying a car. When we want to buy it, this car hasn't been sold. Now that we are about to buy it, you're telling me that it has already been booked? Isn't this out of line? Are you fooling with me? Wang Xian looked at Director Cui and spoke indifferently. When Director Cui heard his words, his eyebrows knitted together. He was also wary of offending Wang Xian, as one who could afford a car over $4 million definitely wouldn't be a simple man. However, he was more wary of offending the young man beside him. Let's do it this way, brother. Why don't you take a look at other models of car, or perhaps you could wait for a month? I'll get one made for you from the headquarters. Director Cui looked at him and said. You can say this to the young man beside you. Wang Xian replied. Wang Xian's reply made Director Cui's face sink. His eyebrows were closely knitted together. In that case, I'm sorry, brother. There's nothing I can do. This car has already been booked by another customer. You haven't even paid for it. He's free to sell it to whoever he wants. What's there to quarrel about? The beautiful girl beside the young man looked at Wang Xian and said, clearly annoyed. That pink Bentley was for her, and she naturally wouldn't allow anyone to snatch it away from her. The young man looked on nonchalantly and didn't say a word. That's not wrong, but I'm not happy about it. Wang Xian smiled and said slowly, I'm a consumer and I'm not here looking to suffer such unjust feelings. There are many unjust things in the world. What can you do about it? Hee hee. Brat. It's good for you to go through these experiences. The young man sneered when he saw how Wang Xian reacted. Wang Xian shrugged his shoulders and looked to the manager and Director Cui. We are here to buy a car and not for this. After trying out for so long and being just about to buy, you're telling me it has been booked? Moreover, it's clear that the other party hasn't bought it yet. Hey, brother, we are the seller. When Director Cui heard his words, his expression got even heavier. We are free to choose who we would like to sell to. Don't you hear them? They are free to choose who they want to sell to. What are you blabbering about? Annoying! They have already said that they aren't selling it to you. The beautiful girl at the side crossed her arms and remarked sarcastically. Great, great! A cold look surfaced on Wang Xian's face as the anger in him had built up. He was angry over what Director Cui had said. After trying the car for half an hour, and being just about to pay for the car, he was told that the car had been sold to another person. Moreover, they weren't the slightest bit apologetic about it. Saying that they were free to sell to whoever they chose was the final straw. Whoever encountered such an incident naturally wouldn't feel good about it. In that case, I'll let you pay a price for it, Wang Xian remarked coldly. Since they had made him unhappy, he would also make them unhappy. Price? Hee hee. When Director Cui heard him, he smirked coldly and stared at Wang Xian with contempt. I would like to see what price you could make us pay. TSK, get out of my shop immediately. So arrogant? I wonder where he was from. Young Master Lin looked at Wang Xian from the side. Don't be so arrogant in Rivertown. Otherwise, you might not even know how you will die. I sure would like to know how I would die in Rivertown. The vibes of a divine dragon started spreading from his body gradually. Brother, let's just let it go. I'm not interested in this car anymore. Xiao Yu looked at the crowd around her. She started feeling a little worried and pulled Wang Xian's arm. Hee hee. When Wang Xian heard her sister, he released his aura and joked. Xiao Yu, just stand aside and watch. I'll let you see what your brother is capable of today. There's no one we need to be afraid of in Rivertown. Brother. Wang Xian caressed her head before turning his attention to Director Cui, young Master Lin and the girl. Didn't you hear me? This is my territory. Get out of here, you brazen brat. Director Chui met Wang Xian's gaze. A newborn calf isn't afraid of a tiger. An arrogant brat like you would suffer a terrible death. Young Master Lin lit a cigarette and looked at Wang Xian as though he was watching a show. In that case, let's see if I will have a terrible death. Wang Xian smirked and noticed a large hammer used for repairs at one side. He walked towards it directly. Brat, what do you think you are trying to do? When Director Chui saw Wang Xian go and pick up the hammer, his expression changed as he roared loudly. Young Master Lin also raised his eyebrows and stared coldly at Wang Xian. What am I trying to do? Since you made me unhappy, I'll just have to vent it out a little. Wang Xian's lips curved into a smile and he turned his attention to within the shop. There were approximately 10 Bentleys in the shop. He carried the hammer and walked to the nearest one to him. Bang! The hammer smashed heavily on the Bentley, forming a huge dent from the ginormous impact. You! Director Chui's expression turned ghastly upon seeing Wang Xian smash the Bentley. Bastard, stop it right now. Otherwise, I won't hold back. I'm going to smash this shop and would like to see what will happen to me. Wang Xian glanced at him with murderous intent. The hammer in his hand smashed down on the Bentley once again. A huge dent appeared after a single smash. After smashing the Bentley 4-5 times, the Bentley looked completely wrecked. However, Wang Xian didn't stop and simply walked to the next Bentley to continue smashing. Stop. Call security. Get the security over here and kill him. Seeing that Wang Xian had smashed 2 Bentleys, Director Chui's eyes had turned red in anger as he roared loudly. The young man by the side threw the cigarette on the floor and stared at Wang Xian callously. Wang Xian smiled plainly and said, After I've smashed all the cars, do show me what will happen to me. Currently, Wang Xian wasn't afraid of anyone in Rivertown. Xian family's influence could help him settle anything in the society. As for the Underworld, he was even less wary of anyone. Bam bam bam! Incessant thumping pierced through the atmosphere. Wang Xian had already smashed 5 Bentleys when the security guards arrived one after another. Stop. You better stop. When the 4 security guards saw Wang Xian smashing the Bentley, they were shocked. These are Bentleys that cost over $3 million each. Yet he dared to just smash. And he had already smashed 5 of them. Wang Xian saw the group of security guards and smiled. He threw the hammer in his hand on the floor and stared at the red-eyed Director Chui. Come, I have just smashed 5 cars. Let me see what will happen to me. Bastard, you are dead. You are as good as dead. Seeing the fearless look on Wang Xian, he pulled out a phone directly. He didn't call for the police but dialed another number. The young master of the Ren family was here and it seemed that young Master Ren wasn't in a good mood. If he knew that there was someone causing trouble here, he would definitely cripple the troublemaker. The Ren family was strong and had interests in half of the 4's showrooms. This place was just one of them. It's over. This brat is as good as dead. Chapter 87, Renanji's Actions. Renanji was feeling despair and had been irritated these past few days. When he recalled what had happened the few nights before, he felt immense fear. His elixir field was destroyed, and now, he had become a useless man. The one who ruined him was a half-step to inborn expert. He shuddered at the thought of the old man and the young man. He told his father, the current master of Ren family. When his father heard about this incident, he almost killed him to make amends with that expert. But under the persuasion of his mother, his father gave up the thought eventually. His father wanted to bring him along and apologize to them. But he gave up the thought as his father did not wish for anyone in the family to find out about this. If other elders in the family found out that he'd gotten into trouble with such a formidable expert, he would be beaten to death to atone for his sins even if his father did not do so. Blood and brutality filled the world of ancient martial arts. Even though Renanji escaped the calamity, his cultivation was totally ruined. Initially, he had the chance to inherit the family as the leader. But now, it was completely out of the question. His elixir field was completely destroyed, and it was only possible to recover with the help of an inborn expert, and some medicine. Obviously, the Rin family was not capable of inviting an inborn expert to treat him. After he lost all his cultivation, he was sent to one of the organizations in the family to manage some businesses. Damn, if it was not for those two idiots, would I have ended up in such a state? Renanji was sitting in the office, staring at his computer. When he recalled what happened that day, he was fuming. If it was not for those two idiotic brothers-in-law, how would he have ended up in such a state? However, the two of them were also leading a tough life. Their limbs were crippled, and they had to spend the rest of their lives in wheelchairs. Besides, his brother-in-law's family also compensated him with half of their assets. However, no matter how much money they compensated him with, it could never be enough in exchange for his cultivation. Buzz. Just when Renanji was feeling vexed, the phone suddenly rang. He displayed an impatient look when he saw the caller's name on the phone. "Speak out now!" Renanji screamed with an unpleasant expression. "Director Ren, I'm sorry to disturb you. Something happened in our showroom. Someone smashed 5 of our Bentleys. 5 of them. That person even taunted us." "What?" Director Chui's voice stunned Renanji for a while. He raised his voice with rage. "Has the person left?" Renanji darkened his expression as he asked with radiance flickering in his eyes. "Not yet, Director Ren. He's still in the showroom." "Great, I'll be there." "God damn it. He's asking for it." Renanji revealed a killing expression. He was feeling grumpy, yet someone dared to make trouble in his showroom. That person was going to be a piece of dead meat. In the entire Rivertown, everyone knew that the Rivertown 4S showroom had the backing of the Rin family. What a fucking fellow. Renanji stood up immediately with a cold expression as he walked to the showroom. He was going to teach that outrageous fellow a hell of a lesson. "Lad, you're doomed. I'll make sure you regret what you did for the rest of your life. Just you wait. You're dead." Back at the 4S automobile showroom, Director Chui spoke to Wang Xian with a hideous look once he got the reply from Director Rin. "Director Chui, who did you call just now?" Young Master Lin asked with doubt when he heard how Director Chui addressed the person on the line. "I called Director Rin, the son of the Rin family," Director Chui answered. He continued coldly, "Director Rin will be here in no time. You are dead." "The son of the Rin family?" Young Master Lin was surprised as fear filled his eyes. Rin family was a huge and influential family in Rivertown. Lin family was far more inferior to them. The son of the Rin family was definitely not someone he could compare with either. "Director Rin will be here in no time. You're dead." Young Master Lin looked at Wang Xian as though he was a dead man. The pretty girl beside young Master Lin grabbed his arm and scorned at Wang Xian. "Lad, you're too arrogant. You actually bashed their cars when they didn't want your business. How ill-educated you are!" Wang Xian swept his cold gazes when he heard them. His flickering gaze fixed on the pretty girl and young Master Lin. Just then, a voice suddenly cut the air before the person could arrive. "Who the hell dares to create trouble in the Ren family's turf? Are you sick of living?" When Director Chui heard the voice, his eyes flashed with happiness as he hurried over to greet the person. "Director Ren, that fellow is inside. He's simply too arrogant. He bashed our cars when we didn't want to sell the car to him. Director Ren, you must teach him a lesson," Director Chui explained as he ran. With a cigarette in between his fingers, Renanji was looking cold as he saw Director Chui running to him. He nodded his head and walked inside. After he entered the showroom, he froze when he saw a young man, leaning haughtily against a Bentley. "Hello, young Master Ren. I'm Lin Feng." When young Master Lin saw Renanji, he quickly went over and greeted him. Yet, Renanji could not hear what Lin Feng was talking about now. He could see darkness in front of him, as if he had fallen into the abyss. This young man. He would never forget him. His serene smile. His taunting look in the eyes. He recalled that night when even that domineering half-step to inborn expert had to listen to his commands. He felt suffocated. Why is it him? How could I be so pitiful that I have to meet this devil-like young man again? Anzhi shuddered in his shoes when he saw the curious and playful look in that young man's eyes. Director Ren, he's the one who smashed 5 of our cars. Director Chui pointed at Wang Xian as he howled angrily to Anzhi. Anzhi paused his breathing, and his expression changed dramatically when he heard Director Chui. Fuck you! Are you trying to get me killed? Anzhi jumped up and slapped Director Chui hard on his face. He almost exerted all his force on it. If his internal energy was still around, Director Chui could be dead with that slap. Anzhi looked at Wang Xian with bitterness as he trotted over. Boom! Next, Anzhi did something that shocked everyone. He ran over and knelt in front of that young man. That's right. He knelt, and the sound of getting down on his knees was loud. Everyone was blown away by Anzhi's series of actions. He slapped Director Chui hard. Then, he ran over and knelt before the young man. He was the young master of the Ren family, the son of the leader of Ren family. Moreover, the Ren family was ranked as the number 2 ancient martial artist family in Rivertown. Yet, when he was confronted by the young man who smashed their cars, he actually ran over and got down on his knees. He got down on his knees. Chapter 88, Feared like a Demon, Revered like a God. Young Master Wang, young Master Wang. I didn't know it was you. I have nothing to do with this. It's all these damned guys who offended young Master Wang. I have nothing to do with them. Young Master Wang, I'll apologize to you. We are at fault in this incident. I'll apologize. Wang Xian had initially wanted to wait for the person Director Chui had called before calling old Xian or trying to settle it by himself. However, it was beyond his expectations that the person who came was Anzhi. He naturally remembered him very clearly. He was from the Ren family. Previously, he was asked by Long Xian Restaurant to burn down his first-grade restaurant. At that time, he was crippled by Mo Qilong directly. What he had never expected was that Director Ren, whom Director Chui was talking about, was none other than Anzhi. Seeing Anzhi kneel down beside him, on the verge of tears, Wang Xian was speechless. Am I so scary? Is it fine for a guy to act like this? If Anzhi knew what Wang Xian was thinking currently, he would definitely cry out loud. How is he not afraid? Not only are you horrifying, but you are also the embodiment of the devil. Damn it. With a half-step to an inborn expert as subordinate, how horrifying your background is. A single kick from you is sufficient to finish off the Ren family. If I let my father know that I just offended this devil again, I'll probably be killed by him. I was wondering who Director Chui would call. So, it happens to be someone I know. Wang Xian looked at Anzhi. He rubbed his nose and found this to be a little hilarious. Young Master Wang, I didn't know it was you either. If I knew, I wouldn't have dared to come, even if you beat me to death. I wouldn't dare to. Anzhi was shivering as he broke into tears. Since we know each other, I believe this matter could be settled easily. Wang Xian looked at him, smiled and squatted down. Young Master Wang, we are at fault in this. I'll apologize. I'll kill Director Chui as apology. Please calm down. Anzhi trembled at the sight of Wang Xian squatting down. He was completely petrified. At the other end, Director Chui, who got slapped so hard that he bled, finally started to recover from the shock. However, when he heard what Anzhi said, he blanked out and lost consciousness. The security guards around couldn't help but swallow their saliva as they witnessed this unbelievable twist of events. When young Master Lin and the beautiful girl beside him saw this, their eyes were in a daze and their faces paled. Even Xiao Yu and Xiao Mi were dumbfounded. Wang Xian looked around before turning to Anzhi. I'm not an unreasonable man. You can be the judge for me. Young Master Wang, please carry on. Please carry on. Anzhi replied immediately. Yeah, this is how it happened. I brought my sister here to buy a car, and we had our eyes on a pink Bentley. After trying it out for several rounds and making the decision to buy it, Director Chui told me that the car has been sold. He said that the car was pre-booked by that young Master Lin and wouldn't sell to me. However, It was clear that at the moment we were trying out the car and had confirmed that we wanted to buy it, this car wasn't sold yet. In other words, I wanted to buy it first, but he sold it to another person. Tell me if you would be angry about it if you were me? Moreover, Director Chui wasn't apologetic at all and asked me to get out. That young Master Lin and the beautiful girl beside him even said that I was arrogant. I was courting death and was uneducated. Hee hee. Tell me now, can you blame me for what I've done? I can't blame you. We are at fault in this. Young Master Wang, I'll definitely give you an explanation that you could be satisfied with. When Anzhi heard Wang Xian finish his illustration, he gritted his teeth and replied quickly. He repeated, Young Master Wang, I'll definitely give you an explanation you could be satisfied with. Rest assured, it's those damned brats who have not followed the rules. Yeah, they are the one who did not follow the rules. I'm not an unreasonable person. Wang Xian smiled, nodded his head and extended his hand over to pat Anzhi's shoulders. No. Young Master Wang, please don't. When he saw Wang Xian extending his hand over, he thought that Wang Xian was meting out punishment. His face paled as he begged for forgiveness. However, he suddenly felt a warming feeling from his elixir field. To his pleasant surprise, he noticed that his elixir field was recovering gradually. This made him stare at Wang Xian in disbelief. I'm a very reasonable person. As long as you don't offend me, I wouldn't offend you. Wang Xian patted on his shoulders and smiled. Anzhi felt the power returning to his body. His face turned red in agitation and his mucus was almost spit out. Thank you, young Master Wang. Thank you. Young Master Wang. Anzhi was kowtowing to Wang Xian. He was unexplainably agitated as he had not expected that this devil in front of him. No. This godlike young man could heal his elixir field. He had never expected this to end in such a fortunate way. Wang Xian smiled, stood up and signaled for him to stand up. Anzhi stood up immediately, and stood beside Wang Xian with his head lowered like a servant. For these Bentleys that I've smashed, put it on the tab of Director Chui and that young Master Lin. Also, young Master Lin and the beautiful girl beside him threatened me, saying that I wouldn't even know how I died. Hee hee. I leave them to you. Wang Xian smirked as he turned his attention to young Master Lin and the girl beside him. Rest assured, young Master Wang, leave this matter to me. I'll definitely not disappoint you. Anzhi lifted his head and guaranteed solemnly. Since they dare to offend young Master Wang, I'll let them know what is meant by not knowing how one died. Anzhi was speaking very loudly. Young Master Lin and the beautiful girl beside him could definitely hear him clearly. When they met Anzhi's murderous stare, they felt a shudder down their spine and were petrified. Young Master Rin. Don't. It's our fault. Please, young Master Rin. Young Master Lin's voice was trembling and he looked horrified. Anzhi looked coldly at young Master Lin, smirked and said, How dare you offend young Master Wang and behave arrogantly in front of him? Just wait and see. We will have a good time together. Young Master Rin, you can't do this to me. It's my fault. Young Master Wang, it's all my fault. I didn't recognize that it was you. I deserve death. When Lin Feng heard the words of Anzhi, he was completely flustered. He looked towards Wang Xian in horror. In his eyes, this young man was the equivalent of a devil. He was petrified. Even young Master Rin kneeled down in front of him and begged for forgiveness. Just a word from Wang Xian was enough to make young Master Rin decide to mess with him. Looking at how young Master Rin behaved, he might very well be killed. His body was trembling as he begged for forgiveness. The beautiful girl beside him had turned as white as sheet, and her whole body was shivering. Who the hell did I offend? Wang Xian glanced at them without emotions. In the eyes of those who offended him, Wang Xian was feared like the devil. Similarly, he could also make others revere him like a god. All of this depended on his mood. If he was in a bad mood, he could cripple Anzhi. Anzhi's actions made him satisfied and he could cure him with a wave of his arm. Feared like a devil and revered like a god. With regard to the control he had, Wang Xian enjoyed it greatly. Your life or death is all in my hands. Everything shall be as I wish. Chapter 89. Your brother is a legend. Young Master Wang, I've got the paperwork done for the car. Here's the key. No, young Master Wang, I cannot take your money. Just take it as a gift from me. Thank young Master Wang for treating my injuries. Take care and goodbye. Back in the showroom where the Bentley 4S showroom was, Anzhi was thanking Wang Xian with respect and enthusiasm. Wang Xian smiled when he saw his look. Good, I'm going off now. Young Master Wang, take care! Anzhi continued with a polite smile. Wang Xian nodded and handed the car key to Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, you'll drive? Let's go. Oh. Xiaoyu nodded. She took over the key hurriedly and unlocked the pink Bentley. They'd gotten the luxury car without paying a single cent on it. Wang Xian sat in the car and watched smilingly at his sister who drove the car out. Anzhi watched as the car dove away. He wiped the sweat on his forehead with a complicated expression on his face. What a domineering existence! I wonder if I should feel fearful or lucky to meet someone like him. Whatever it is, never provoke him. Never! He could destroy you when he is unhappy and heal you easily when he is in a good mood. Radiance flickered in Anzhi's eyes as he spun his head around slowly. He gazed at Lin Feng and the pretty girl, who were standing at the entrance. Just then, Lin Feng slapped the girl furiously. Because of her, he'd provoked that terrifying existence. Lin Feng, count yourself unlucky to have provoked young Master Wang, Anzhi said with icy cold eyes as he walked in slowly. Not many people knew what had happened in the 4S showroom. Those who knew did not dare to spread the word around. Gosh, aren't they Xiaoyu and her brother? However, a group of young people saw what had happened just now not far away. They saw Xiaoyu driving out with a brand new pink Bentley. It was a high-class luxury car, Bentley. Jia Wenrui, Jiang Shuang and the rest watched in surprise as the pink Bentley disappeared before them. Her brother is rich. He actually bought her a Bentley. That luxury car costs about $5 million. Gosh, this is incredible. Too incredible! Several young people could not help but exclaim. They never thought that Xiaoyu's brother was that awesome. Jia Wenrui stood there with a mixed expression of fascination and awkwardness. Jiang Shuang was dumbfounded. Apart from being jealous, there was nothing else left for her. Bentley. Her dad was unwilling to buy a Bentley for her. Senior Wang Xian, you're way too suave. The person whom Director Chui called was so terrified of you. He even gave us a free car. Back in the car, Xiaomi spoke to Wang Xian with admiration. Brother, you have become so awesome now! Xiaoyu exclaimed too. Haha, don't you know who your brother is? Your brother is a legend. Wang Xian laughed and replied loudly. Xiaoyu also beamed. My brother is the best. Where are we going now, brother? It's almost evening time. I'll take you to my restaurant for dinner. Wang Xian looked at the time. He gave Xiaoyu the directions too. Restaurant? Brother, where is your restaurant? Is it near the school? Asked Xiaoyu curiously. Yes, it's near the school. After talking to Xiaoyu and Xiaomi, the car reached the entrance of the old street half an hour later. Cars are prohibited inside. You've got to park the car in the parking lot, Wang Xian told his sister. Yes, brother. After they walked out of the car, Wang Xian began to introduce the old street to them. This street is known as the Old Street. You can shop for stuff and have your meals on this street in the future. My restaurant is inside. As they walked, he introduced the delicious breakfast places and some street food to his sister. Xiaoyu nodded her head continuously as she asked questions curiously. Holding her brother's arm, Xiaoyu felt relaxed and happy. This is my restaurant, Wang Xian said to Xiaoyu when they arrived at the entrance of first-grade restaurant. Both of them looked up and were slightly stunned when they saw the restaurant's name. First-grade restaurant, such a familiar name, Xiaoyu murmured. Xiaoyu, isn't this the restaurant that gained popularity on the internet lately? It was known to be the country's best restaurant. Xiaomi thought of the news she read recently and spoke in surprise. Yes, I remember. First-grade restaurant. Brother, never did I expect that the first-grade restaurant belongs to you. This restaurant is famous now. Xiaoyu stared at Wang Xian and cried out in surprise. Come on in. I'll treat you to a big feast tonight. Wang Xian chuckled as he led them inside. Director Wang. Boss. As soon as the greeters saw him, they immediately greeted him. Okay. Wang Xian nodded at them as he looked inside. It was only 6 p.m., and there were almost 80 people in the queue. It was not hard to imagine the popularity of the first-grade restaurant. Director Wang. Upon seeing the arrival of Wang Xian, Manager Huang hurried on his way over. Did you reserve the seat I asked you to? I'm going to treat my sister to dinner. Get the kitchen to prepare two-headed abalone, Atlantic bluefin marlin sashimi, and Chinese bahaba fish gelatin. On top of that, prepare some specialty dishes too, said Wang Xian to Manager Huang. Yes, the seat has been reserved for you. I'll get the kitchen to prepare your dishes. Manager Huang nodded as he swept his gazes across Xiao Yu and Xiao Mi behind him. Finally, he fixed his gaze on Xiao Yu. Okay. Wang Xian nodded. Then he went into the office and got Guan Shuqing out. Xiao Xian, is this your sister Xiao Yu? Asked Guan Shuqing with a smile. She walked out and spotted Xiao Yu, who looked somewhat alike to Wang Xian. Yes, this is Xiao Yu, and this is her best friend, Xiao Mi. This is Guan Shuqing, and she's your senior from now on. Wang Xian nodded. Hello, Xiao Yu and Xiao Mi. Guan Shuqing grinned as she waved and greeted them. Hello, sister. Xiao Yu looked at the beautiful and elegant Guan Shuqing. She leaned to Wang Xian and whispered in his ears. Brother, is she my sister or sister-in-law? What are you thinking? Wang Xian patted her head. Let's go for our dinner. Brother, I've realized that I'm simply too happy right now. With good food and nice clothes. Hee, I'm so happy to be attending university. My Xiaoyu will be the little princess from now on. Brother, you are wonderful. Enough of the sweet talk. I'll send you back after dinner. You've been running around for the entire day. Rest well tonight. Report to school tomorrow first thing, and I'll bring you out again. Wang Xian and Xiao Yu grinned at each other. Guan Shuqing was also gazing at them with a smile on her face. Chapter 90. Starting School. The time to report to the university had arrived, and the students turned up at the school one after another. Today was the first official day to report for the freshmen. Nonetheless, the Year 2 and Year 3 students were also rushing back to school. Just like the freshmen, the Year 2 and Year 3 students also had 3 days to report to school. However, there were some students who were responsible to receive the freshmen and had to arrive before their reporting dates. By around 10 in the morning, the entrance of the school had gradually seen students gathering. Moreover, there were cars parked everywhere in the vicinity of the entrance of the school. Scenes of parents bringing their children and walking into the university were common. Several young faces were carrying their luggage while looking around constantly at the campus where they would be spending the next few years of their lives. A pink Bentley drove over and stopped beside the school, drawing the attention of a substantial number of students. Let's find a place to park the car first. The school forbids us to drive the car into the school today. Wang Xian looked at the surrounding cars and spoke to Xiao Yu, who was driving. For the first 3 days of school, many parents would drive their children to school. In order to prevent congestion, the school forbid cars from entering the school. All right, brother. Xiao Yu nodded her head, found a spot and parked the car. Let's go. I'll carry the things and lead you all to the reporting area. After which, we will head to the dormitory to unpack your luggage. Wang Xian said to Xiao Yu and Xiao Mi as he dragged along their luggage. Other than some clothes and their laptops, they didn't have many other things in their luggage. Blankets were all issued by the school. After locking the car, Xiao Yu and Xiao Mi followed behind Wang Xian eagerly as they looked at the school in front of them with anticipation. Xiao Yu had changed into the new clothes she'd bought the previous day. It was a beautiful long dress from Prada that revealed her fair arms. On her wrist was a watch from Patek Philippe which cost over $880,000. She didn't put on any makeup and had a natural, confident, and beautiful smile. If Xiao Yu was a swan the previous day, she was a beautiful phoenix today. An action or a single smile was enough to attract others' attention. It seems like our University of Rivertown will have another beautiful girl. Wang Xian looked at Xiao Yu and joked. Hee hee. Brother, I have always been an adorable and beautiful girl, chuckled Xiao Yu. Let's go and report. After which, we are going to the dormitory to put down your things, Wang Xian said as he led them to the reporting area. Xiao Yu and Xiaomi had the same specialization and therefore Wang Xian brought them to the same reporting area directly. There were teachers and students sitting at the reporting area. Seeing Xiao Yu and Xiaomi walking over, one of them spoke to Xiao Yu. Junior, take out your enrollment notice and show it to us. I'll get some students to bring you to your dormitory and inform you of the location of your classes. All right. Xiao Yu and Xiaomi took out the notice letter while the student at the side checked for the information of their allocated dormitory room. Wan Yu, room 303. Zhang Xiaomi, room 305. I'll get some students to bring you there. Let me go, let me go. When one of the boys saw Xiao Yu and Xiaomi, his eyes lit up as he volunteered enthusiastically. It's all right. I'm Wan Yu's brother and I'm also from this school. I know the location. I'll bring them over. Wang Xian stood behind and smiled upon seeing the enthusiastic senior. In university, seniors were like wolves and juniors were little lambs. Many seniors would wait for the arrival of the juniors, ready to pounce when the opportunity arose. Wang Xian dispelled the ideas of that senior immediately. That guy looked at Wang Xian and was speechless. Let's go, I'll bring you guys over. Wang Xian smiled and led Xiao Yu and Xiaomi towards the dormitory. So beautiful. That junior is really beautiful. Behind them, the enthusiastic guy looked at the back view of Xiao Yu and remarked sadly. Luwen, I think you should just give up on that idea. The girl sitting in front of the table said to the guy with contempt. Wame, what do you mean by that? Why did you ask me to give up on the idea? I'm known to be attractive. You should take a closer look at that girl. The Prada dress is at least $30,000 to $40,000. Her shoes are at least $4,000 to $5,000. More importantly, if I didn't make a mistake, the watch on her wrist was the latest female model from Patek Philippe and costs more than $800,000. How would such a fair, rich and beautiful girl be fond of you? The girl replied with contempt. That guy was dumbfounded and swallowed his saliva. She's so rich. Xiao Yu didn't pick up the comments from the girl behind her. She was full of smiles while observing the surroundings of the school. Wang Xian stood by her side and was explaining to the girls about the school. This is the female dormitory. Let's go to the third floor. The first few days of school were the only days when a guy could enter the female dormitory legally. Wang Xian brought them to the third floor. This is 303. Xiaomi, 305 is right there. Wang Xian pointed to another room and said to Xiaomi. We aren't in the same room. Xiao Yu commented grumpily. It's fine. We are still staying really close to each other. Xiaomi smiled before continuing. I'll go unpack my luggage. You should hurry too. Xiao Yu nodded her head and entered her own room. Each school dormitory room was for 4 people. The beds were at the top while the study desks were below the beds. When they got in, they noticed that the other 3 girls had arrived. Oh, the last lady is here too. Everyone is here now. All 4 of them. When they just stepped in, a rough manly voice chuckled. Hi, uncle. Xiao Yu looked over and smiled radiantly at the ordinarily dressed middle-aged man. Hi, uncle. Wang Xian also greeted and looked to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man had an honest smile on him, and was probably from the rural areas. However, people like this were also the easiest to get along with. Hello? The girl beside the middle-aged man greeted Xiao Yu and Wang Xian shyly. The girl looked young and was very shy. Her eyes were bright and had an exquisite look. Her dressing was a little old-fashioned, a classic example of a village girl. Nonetheless, she looked natural. Hello, I'm Wang Yu. This is my brother, Wang Xian. My brother is also from our school and is in year 2. Xiao Yu smiled. I'm Yuan Yuan Yuan. Yuan 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 smiled nervously. Come, let's chat after unpacking. The middle-aged man smiled and said as he extended his hand over to help. It's all right, uncle. We don't have a lot of things to unpack. We can handle it ourselves. Wang Xian smiled and replied. All right, there's still some space here. The middle-aged man laughed. Wang Xian nodded his head. There was a blanket on the bed that wasn't spread open. Wang Xian crawled up the ladder to prepare the bed. As for Xiao Yu, she remained at the bottom to sort out her clothes and computer. They didn't have a lot to unpack and therefore finished quickly. When they were done, the other 3 girls had also finished tidying up with the help of their parents. Come, try some sweet candies from our hometown. We made them ourselves and they taste really good. The middle-aged man took out a bag of snacks from his bag. After opening it, he passed it to the people around him. Come, have a try. It's delicious. Chapter 91, Spoiled Girl. Okay, thank you, uncle. Wang Xian and Xiao Yu took a look at the stuff that the middle-aged uncle passed over. Both of them smiled and took some when they saw the fried brown sugar inside. We don't have much at home. So I got my daughter to bring some of the hometown specialty for her classmates. Here, try it. The middle-aged uncle gave a good-natured smile and passed on the food to the other 2 families. Another 2 girls came with their parents. One of them was slightly plump, and so were her parents. Given the dressing, their family must not have been too poor. The family closer to the balcony was obviously a wealthier family. The girl was tall and slender with a good-looking face. She wore a large white tee with hot pants, revealing her fair thighs with a tattoo on her leg. Her lips were brightly colored with lipstick. Her mother's dressing was trendy, and she maintained her figure well. Her father had a slight beer belly with a lavish dress sense, just like the way bosses would dress. Thank you. The family members of the slightly plump girl nodded to the middle-aged uncle with a friendly look as they took some of the food. It's okay for us. The mother of the tall and slender girl gestured. You guys have it. We'll skip. Try them. Don't stand a ceremony. They are tasty. The middle-aged uncle raised his voice as he laughed. The taste is really good. Wang Xian tasted some and nodded his head smilingly. I told you. This is our hometown specialty. But we've got a secret recipe, so they taste better than the rest. When the middle-aged uncle heard what Wang Xian said, he beamed as he explained happily. He raised the bag to the family who had declined earlier on. No, really. The plump middle-aged man took a look at the cheap and unrefined plastic bag, frowning as he gestured his rejection. It's okay, try it. I'll pour you some for you to taste it. The middle-aged uncle stood up to share some of the food with them. I told you not to. However, an impatient voice sounded off at this time. The middle-aged uncle froze with an unnatural expression on his face. You kid! The lady spoke as she glared at her daughter. She laughed and said, Fingya is not someone good with words. Uncle, give it to me. It's delicious, hee. Wang Xian chuckled as he stood up when he saw the middle-aged uncle was somewhat embarrassed. Great, go ahead. It's nothing. Hee. The middle-aged uncle squeezed out a smile on his face, pretending that he did not hear what that girl had said. He rubbed his palms together when he saw Wang Xian was eating. Feeling embarrassed, he said, My daughter Yuan Yuan is a little shy. I hope her classmates will take care of her, and that they'll get along well with each other. If you wish to have more sweets, let me know. I'll get Yuan Yuan to bring you some. Yes, my daughter is Su Qian. She has a sweet tooth. Next time, you and Yuan Yuan must get along with each other, along with other roommates, Su Qian's mother said with a smile. Yes, let's get along with each other. The middle-aged uncle chuckled and nodded. My sister and I are studying in this university. But I'm a year 2 student now. If you need any help in Rivertown, you can look for me. Wang Xian smiled. Young lad, you're also from the same school? You must be incredible since both of you made it to the University of Rivertown together. Su Qian's father exclaimed in surprise. Yes. Wang Xian chuckled. That's good then. The middle-aged uncle agreed with a beaming face. We're local people over here. Fengya knows nothing. I hope the rest of the roommates can help her out. The mother of the tall and slender girl said smilingly. Who said I know nothing? The girl pouted in dissatisfaction. What do you know, kid? Do you know how to do your laundry, wash the toilet? The lady stared at her. The girl was slightly displeased as she took out a box of ladies' cigarettes and lit one. Cut the smoking and get along well with your roommates. The plump middle-aged man looked at his daughter before he turned to look at the rest. My kid is pampered. I hope the rest of the roommates can help out in things like cleaning. Thank you. What he said caused the parents of Su Qian to frown, but they did not make any remarks. The middle-aged uncle said nothing either. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and looked at the girl who was smoking. He then turned to her father and asked, Since you are a local, why doesn't she just stay at home so that it is convenient to take care of her? Wang Xian was hinting. Our house is far from the school. It would take about an hour to come here from home. The middle-aged man smiled and said, Oh. Wang Xian nodded and continued. I think the 4 ladies should be responsible for the things in their room. They should do their own cleaning and keep their own things. The room is not big. It won't be tiresome to do these. And Wang Xian looked at the girl who was smoking and said, It would be best not to smoke in the dormitory for girls. That will affect other people. The atmosphere suddenly froze after Wang Xian spoke. The middle-aged lady frowned immediately. The girl who was smoking was staring unhappily at Wang Xian. You're right. My daughter is too pampered. What has my smoking got to do with you? You're such a busybody. At this time, the girl who was smoking suddenly glared at Wang Xian and rolled her eyes at him. Fengya, how can you say such things? I told you to get along with other roommates. The lady told her daughter off hurriedly. But when she turned to them, she said, It's just a lady's cigarette. It won't stink. The middle-aged man darkened his expression. He looked at the time and stood up suddenly. It's going to be noon. I'll treat all of you to lunch. It's also a kind of destiny for the kids to be sharing a room together. Let's have lunch together. Yes, let's have lunch together so that the kids can get to know each other. The lady by the side agreed. Well, the parents of Su Qian hesitated as they looked at the middle-aged uncle and Wang Xian. Let's go and have something outside. The middle-aged man stood up again and said, Okay, then let's have lunch together. After much consideration, Su Qian's parents agreed to it. Sure. The middle-aged uncle also agreed. But apparently they had a bad impression of that family and that girl. Wang Xian shrugged his shoulders and stood up with Xiaoyu. Humph. The middle-aged man and the lady took the lead and walked out first. Their daughter followed behind. When she walked past Wang Xian, she stared and snorted at him. Wang Xian looked at her as he raised his eyebrow. Brother, this girl is not easy to get along with. Xiaoyu stuck her tongue out to Wang Xian as she whispered. Let's go. We can talk over lunch. I also want to see what they want by treating us to lunch. Wang Xian sneered. Chapter 92. Who dares to say it's not appropriate? Dad, just leave your things here. It's all right. I'll be going off directly after the meal and will not be coming back. I still have to head to the construction site, at the latest by tonight. All right then, Dad. Be careful at the construction site. The middle-aged man and Yuan walked at the back of the group. Her father was carrying a gunny sack with some living necessities in it. Wang Xian turned his head over, smiled at the middle-aged man and asked, Uncle, are you working in Rivertown? Yeah, I'm working at a construction site. Yuan happened to be in Rivertown, and I thought I'd drop by since it's near. The middle-aged man smiled. From his gunny sack, he took out a box of cigarettes. Son, do you smoke? No, I don't. Wang Xian shook his head. It's good to not smoke. It's good. This isn't a good thing. The middle-aged man smiled and put back his cigarette. The group of people headed out of school. The middle-aged plump man and lady were constantly instructing their daughter on some matters. Su Qian and her family walked together with Wang Xian and the middle-aged man, chatting along the way. Xiao Yu and the other two girls seemed to have gotten along well as they smiled and chatted. The group of people headed towards Old Street. Although it was already September, the sun was still very vicious. However, they weren't too far and the whole journey took only 5 minutes. Let's go. I'll bring you guys to the most famous restaurant in the country, first-grade restaurant, for a simple meal. The plump, middle-aged man turned his head around and said to the crowd. First-grade restaurant? Is it the same first-grade restaurant that is insanely popular on the internet recently? Su Qian's father exclaimed with amazement. Yeah, it's that first-grade restaurant. It is also the most luxurious restaurant in Rivertown. The middle-aged plump man smiled and nodded his head. With pride written on his face, he continued, A meal would easily cost several thousand. Let's head there. Our kids will be roommates in the future, and it's also fate that brought us together. It's too expensive, too expensive. Let's just find another place and have a simple meal. Yuan Yuan's father quickly remarked. It's all right. It's just a meal. Let's go. This meal is on me. The middle-aged plump man waved his hand nonchalantly as he walked ahead. When Xiao Yu heard where they were going, she raised her head and looked at Wang Xian. Wang Xian smiled at her but simply followed behind the middle-aged plump man, who seemed to feel that he was above others, towards first-grade restaurant. This is the most well-known first-grade restaurant in Rivertown. Come, let's go in. At the entrance, the middle-aged plump man spoke to the group and led them in. Welcome! As they entered, the greeters remarked passionately. Are there still tables available? The middle-aged plump man asked. There's only one more left at the main hall, the greeter replied. Your business is really good. It's not even 11:30 am. Let's go in. The middle-aged plump man led the way. Wang Xian and Xiao Yu also followed the group in. Director. When the two greeters saw Wang Xian, they were surprised. Just as they were about to greet him, Wang Xian immediately waved at them, signaling for them to not greet. Wang Xian simply followed behind the middle-aged plump man. The two greeters looked inquisitively at him and didn't continue. Look! These are world-class ingredients. Hee hee. So incredible! The middle-aged plump man looked at the world-class ingredients as he smiled and explained. Yuan Yuan's and Su Qian's father walked over inquisitively and were shocked by what they saw. Let's go. Let's have lunch now. When the middle-aged plump man saw their expressions, he nodded his head in approval and walked further in. Arg! At this moment, a scream sounded from the side. My clothes! What are you doing? Don't you open your eyes when you are walking? Look at what you did to my new clothes! Following this, a sharp shriek pierced the atmosphere. Wang Xian looked over in surprise and saw a tall girl sweeping her hands on her clothes with contempt. She had a ghastly expression on her face. I'm sorry. The middle-aged man quickly turned around and apologized when he saw the stain on her t-shirt. Why are you carrying this? Why did you carry such a dirty bag to eat? Don't you know that this is a high-class restaurant? You! The girl was furious and launched a barrage of insults at the middle-aged man. What's the matter, Fengya? The lady by the side looked over and asked, concerned. Mom, look at my clothes. These are new and cost over $2,000. They're stained now, the girl replied furiously. Uncle is walking in front of you. You probably knocked into him when you were distracted from playing on your phone. Wang Xian looked at this unreasonable girl and spoke with an unfriendly expression. If he didn't carry this, how would I knock into it? The girl stared at Wang Xian. We are in such a high-class restaurant to eat. Tell me, why did he bring along such a damned bag? Why is my father's bag a damned bag? It's clear that you knocked into him. Seeing the girl insulting her father furiously, Yuan Yuan's face turned red and she wanted to speak up for her father. Do you know where we are? This is first-grade restaurant. You group of country pumpkins. Have you ever been to such a high-class place? Can this thing be brought in? The girl retorted angrily. All right, Fingya. It's just a little dirty, and it will be fine after washing. The lady by the side quickly interrupted. Who says that first-grade restaurant doesn't allow him to bring this in? Wang Xian looked emotionlessly at the girl before turning around and seeing the nervous and lost middle-aged man and the unapologetic lady with her husband. Shouldn't he know that he shouldn't bring such a dirty bag here? The girl rebutted. What poor upbringing! You knocked into him and yet tried to blame him for it? Wang Xian spoke to the girl coldly. This time, he had no intention to be polite and shouted directly. What are you saying? You are the one with a poor upbringing. Have you been here before? This is one of the highest class restaurants in the entire country. Can this damn thing be brought in? The girl pointed at Wang Xian. All right, Fingya. Stop it! Brat, you should stop too. The middle-aged plump man frowned and shouted. Shut up! When Wang Xian heard his words, he was enraged. He had never thought that he would encounter such a unique family. Who said that you cannot bring a gunny sack in? Tell me. It's the fault of the parents if the child makes a mistake. Teach your daughter well. Brat, since when are you qualified to criticize my daughter? The lady exploded upon hearing Wang Xian. What's wrong with complaining a little after my daughter's shirt got stained? Besides that, is it appropriate for him to carry a gunny sack here? He can if he wishes. Why is it inappropriate? In this place, who dared to say it's inappropriate? Wang Xian looked emotionlessly at them. At this moment, the quarrel between Wang Xian and them had drawn the attention of the surrounding crowd. Manager Huang was shocked to hear his boss's voice. He immediately ran over. Director Wang, what happened? Manager Huang walked to Wang Xian and asked nervously after seeing his fuming boss. Chapter 93, Get Out. It's okay. Wang Xian shook his head to Manager Huang, who came in and checked on him. Then he turned to look at the middle-aged lady and her daughter. With a cold voice, he said, The first-grade restaurant is my restaurant. What's wrong with my customers carrying a bag when they are dining in my restaurant? Tell me who forbid the bag to be carried here. You know it very well yourself if your daughter is ill-mannered. She was spoilt by you. But I'm telling you this. You can pamper your daughter, but others will not. So, don't boss people around. No one is giving in to you here. If you have a temper, I'll beat you till your temper is gone. Wang Xian looked at Manager Huang impatiently and said, Throw the three of them out. I get annoyed when I see them. Yes, Director Wang. Manager Huang nodded his head and looked at the three of them. In a cold tone, he said, Please leave the first-grade restaurant. Otherwise, we'll chase you out personally. You! The middle-aged couple was stunned with mixed expressions on their faces. They did not expect that the young man before him owned the first-grade restaurant. Isn't he just a year 2 student? How could he be the boss of the first-grade restaurant? However, the manager who was staring at them coldly wanted them to get out. The middle-aged man had an embarrassing expression as he clenched his fist tightly. Their daughter was shocked to witness this, and her facial expression changed dramatically. If you are not going out, don't blame us for it. Seeing that the three of them were keeping still, Manager Huang warned them again. Fine, you're good. The middle-aged man stared at Wang Xian with a darkened expression as he headed out. The lady was fuming with redness flushing to her cheeks. She glared at Wang Xian angrily as she pulled her daughter out of the restaurant. The girl also stared at Wang Xian ferociously as she followed her parents. Never did I expect that this lad is the boss of the first-grade restaurant. The middle-aged man walked out with a sullen look. His facial expression continued to change. Given the current strength of the first-grade restaurant, he could somewhat guess how influential the boss was. He was only running a construction business for a property company. Even though his status was not too low, he would not dare to provoke the first-grade restaurant's boss. Her? Just when the plump middle-aged man walked to the entrance, he saw a familiar figure at the door. He stopped walking as an idea came to him. Immediately, he put up a smile and greeted him. Director Sun, I wasn't expecting to see you here. Hey, old Zhao, you're here with your family? Have you eaten? Asked the man with a smile. He was in his 30s, and he was slightly taken aback when he looked at the middle-aged man. No, not. The middle-aged man smiled awkwardly. I'm meeting a few business friends. Since all of us know each other, let's have lunch together. Director Sun smiled as he invited him. Director Sun, perhaps you can help me out with one thing. The middle-aged man looked towards Director Sun hopefully with cold radiance flashing in his eyes. Director Sun and he were quite familiar with each other. To be exact, he was relying on the property developers under Director Sun for his livelihood. Director Sun was working in the property developing company as high management with waters that ran deep. His networking power was extensive as he got dozens of helpers at hand to settle those stubborn households who were reluctant to move. Apart from that, Director Sun owned 3 to 4 nightclubs, bars, and KTV. Many people who were working in Rivertown had to lower themselves and address him as Second Master Sun. Respectfully, Director Sun could almost call the shots in the Rivertown. So what if he was the boss of the first-grade restaurant when he could ask for help from Director Sun? Help? What is it about? Director Sun looked at the middle-aged man, puzzled. Director Sun, just now the boss of the first-grade restaurant threw us out of the restaurant. I hope you can settle this for me, said the plump middle-aged man with a bitter face. The boss of the first-grade restaurant. Director Sun was slightly shocked as his expression darkened when he heard it. He looked at the middle-aged man with radiance flickering in his eyes. Why did he chase you out? This. Director Sun, this is a long story. That lad was rude, and he actually scolded my daughter. This is simply too much. Director Sun, I can't swallow this down. Since you're so formidable, I hope you can avenge me. I'll repay you handsomely, the middle-aged man said with a solemn face. You're kidding your father. Director Sun looked at the girl beside him and said slowly. What? The middle-aged man asked puzzledly, hearing his weird remarks. It's all right, wait for my news here, Director Sun said to the middle-aged man with a disdainful look in his eyes. Great. When he heard Director Sun's promise, sharp radiance filled his eyes. Thank you, Director Sun, for avenging for me. Tomorrow night I'll treat you to a sumptuous dinner. Okay. Director Sun gave a gentle nod. Director Sun, please have your lunch. I shall not disturb you anymore. The middle-aged man gave a polite smile as he spoke. Director Sun nodded and entered the restaurant. Hubby, is this the formidable Director Sun that you mentioned? The lady beside them overheard their conversation and asked with a pair of beaming eyes. Yes, he's the one. The middle-aged man revealed a thrilled expression. Director Sun has promised that he would avenge for me. A restaurant owner. No matter how famous his restaurant is, he can never outfight Director Sunday. Dad, you should get someone to bash that lad up. He's too arrogant, said the girl ruthlessly as she clenched her fist tight. That's enough. The middle-aged man looked at his daughter and frowned. Can't you stop throwing your temper around? With such a character, how can you make friends in school? I wanted to treat them to lunch so that your roommates could take care of you. Now you ruined everything. But since Director Sun has agreed, that lad is either going to lose his arm or his leg. Who wants them to take care of me? I'm not befriending them. Don't meddle in my affairs, will you? And Dad, don't let that arrogant fellow get away that easily. The girl waved her hands impatiently. You imp. The middle-aged man walked out. What an ignorant fellow. Director Sun turned and looked back at the family who just left with cold-looking eyes. But I have to thank this idiotic fellow. Director Sun raised his eyebrow and grinned as he looked inside the restaurant for Wang Xian. There. His eyes brightened up as he walked to a table in the hall immediately. He still remembered clearly how the young man had shouted at the banquet that night. You might want to ask if Qin Guohui dares to say this to me. Back then, everyone was shocked, including him. In particular, old Qin showed up and chased Second Master Qin out of the Qin family. Not only this, But old Xian even bowed and apologized to him. That scene left a deep impression on him. How formidable could this young man be, such that even old Xian needed to bow and apologize to him? He was only someone from high management under the ruling of Xian family. It was not an exaggeration to say that he looked highly upon this young man. Since there was a chance to fawn upon this young man, he must seize it for sure. Chapter 94. I don't have to do it myself. Uncle, please let Manager Wang keep your stuff in the office while we have our meal. On the other side, Wang Xian smiled and spoke to the middle-aged man who was still in shock. Hey son, thank you. You are a really nice person. The middle-aged man recovered and replied. His eyes were a little red from the incident. It's just a small matter. It's fate that brought us together. Wang Xian smiled at the middle-aged man. Let's go and find a seat. With regard to this simple middle-aged man, Wang Xian was fond of him. He still remembered vividly that while living with his sister and grandmother, there was a middle-aged man called Uncle Zhang, who took great care of them. Uncle Zhang was a very nice guy and had been very caring towards him. He also had an honest smile at all times and was passionate about everyone around him. During the harvesting season, Uncle Zhang would always help them, as he knew that Wang Xian's grandmother couldn't take the toll. After their grandmother passed away, it was also Uncle Zhang who helped them with the funeral matters. He had even spent a lot of money because of that. I wonder how Uncle Zhang is right now. I should return and repay him for what he has done for me, Wang Xian thought to himself. The middle-aged man in front of him right now was polite, followed the rules and was similar to Uncle Zhang. A look at him, and one could tell that he was a great person. I really hadn't expected you to be the boss of this restaurant. Incredible! Really incredible! To be so outstanding at such a young age. Su Qian's parents were shocked, and their eyes lit up, while complimenting Wang Xian. I'm just lucky. Wang Xian smiled. Come, let us all take a seat. Let's forget about the unhappy events. As for the girl with a poor upbringing, just ignore her in the future. It will be fine as long as the three of you get along well. Yeah? Su Qian and Yuan nodded their heads while looking at him with eyes of worship. Handsome and righteous. This is the type of guy that every young girl would fall in love with. Yuan, remember to get along with them. These two girls are great friends to have, the middle-aged man said emotionally while caressing his daughter's head. I know it, Dad. Rest assured and don't worry about me. Yuan was sensible and cared a lot about her father. Wang Xian smiled and said, If you encounter any issues in school or Rivertown in the future, feel free to look for me. Thank you, son. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. The middle-aged man and Su Qian's parents immediately thanked him. It's a small matter. We are all from the same school after all. Wang Xian waved his hand and the seven of them walked to a table. Young Master Wang! At this moment, a young man walked over suddenly and greeted Wang Xian. You are? Wang Xian looked at the young man who had appeared suddenly. Young Master Wang, we met once at the banquet of Old Xian. Perhaps young Master Wang doesn't remember me. This person was none other than Director Sun, as he said respectfully. Oh, I'm sorry about it. Wang Xian smiled apologetically but still had doubts about his intentions. Young Master Wang, this is what happened, Director Sun said immediately. I bumped into Zhao Jingshan and he told me something. Director Sun saw the doubtful eyes of Wang Xian and quickly clarified. Zhao Jingshan is the slightly plump middle-aged man. I just bumped into him and his family at the entrance. You know them? Wang Xian frowned. I'm not close to him, not even close. Director Sun explained immediately. Zhao Jingshan is a construction materials supplier under Qin family's property company. I'm a manager of the company and am capable of some things. He wanted me to cause you some trouble when I bumped into him at the entrance a while ago. Such a despicable person has to be punished. Young Master Wang, I suggest that I let the company stop working with him. Moreover, I'll ask all the developers in Rivertown to not work with him. What do you think of this? Director Sun asked. I leave this to you. Wang Xian nodded and said to Director Sunday, Thank you. Young Master Wang, you are too courteous. It's just a small matter. In that case, I shall not take up any more of your time. Director Sun replied immediately with a smile. Wait a minute. How do I address you? An idea struck Wang Xian as he stopped Director Sunday. Young Master Wang, you can just call me Xiao Sun. When Director Sun heard Wang Xian stop him, he was thrilled. I'll just call you Director Sunday. Director Sun, I have something to trouble you with. Wang Xian looked at him and smiled. This is the father of my sister's classmate. He is currently working at a construction site. Help me keep a lookout if there are any suitable jobs for him. Work? Director Sun was taken aback. Following which, excitement flashed in his eyes. Yes, there is, young Master Wang. We are looking for a security department head, and there are also many vacant slots in the quality inspection department, which is recruiting. The salary isn't particularly high but is still around several tens of thousands a month. Director Sun remarked. He turned to the middle-aged man and said enthusiastically, Brother, come look for me. This is my name card, and can I get your number? I'll give you a call after lunch. At that time, I'll bring you over. The middle-aged man was stunned. Looking at this well-dressed young man, he was at a loss as to what to do. Although the middle-aged man was from the village, he wasn't silly. He could roughly deduce the ability of this young man in front of him. The parents of the girl a while ago were just a small partner of his, and they were already doing so well. Currently, this even more incredible person was being so enthusiastic to him. This had completely thrown him off. Director Sun. The middle-aged man stood up immediately. He looked at Wang Xian and waved his hand constantly. Hey son, this wouldn't do. I know what I'm capable of. It's alright if you want me to do some menial work. As for others, I wouldn't be able to do it. It's alright, uncle. You can learn while doing. If you really can't, you are free to switch to a more ordinary job. Wang Xian stood up and patted the shoulder of the middle-aged man. He looked to Director Sun and said, Director Sun, take down my number. If there's anything, you can call me directly. I'll contact you directly with regard to this uncle in the future. Sure. Director Sun nodded his head gladly and took out his phone. Alright, let's talk again after lunch. Wang Xian nodded at Director Sunday. Sure. In that case, young Master Wang, have your lunch first. We are going for lunch too. Director Sun nodded his head and smiled. Looking at the shocked look on the middle-aged man, he added, Uncle, take a seat. It's just a small matter. Sigh. Son, you are truly a great guy. Really? Thank you? I have to thank you. The middle-aged man was so moved that he became incoherent. It's really a small matter. Uncle, you are a great guy and I was just helping you within my means. Wang Xian shook his head and continued. Let's eat. If you all are free in the future, ask Xiao Yu to bring you over. Don't stand on ceremony. Thank you, senior. Yuan replied gratefully. You're welcome. We are roommates, and will be living together for 4 years. This is just a small matter. Xiao Yu held on to Yuan's arm and chuckled. Su Qian's parents, who were sitting at the other end, looked at the young man in shock. Without having to do anything, there were people coming over to help eradicate that cocky family. With just a request, he could give the middle-aged man a job that many others desired. They were convinced that they should ask their daughter to be good friends with his sister. Chapter 95. Underworld Affairs. Brother, where are we going? After Wang Xian settled the middle-aged man, Xiao Yu, Yuan and Su Qian questioned him after their lunch. It's about 2 o'clock, why don't we buzz? Just when Wang Xian was about to take them to the summer sun resort to relax, his phone suddenly rang. Old Shui. Wang Xian took out his phone and looked at the number with surprise. Old Shui seldom called him. It was always Shui Jing who contacted him the most. Hello, Old Shui. Wang Xian picked up the phone and greeted doubtfully. Wang Xian, are you busy? Old Shue's voice was heard on the phone. Her? What's the matter, Old Shue? Asked Wang Xian curiously. There is something that I would like to discuss with you. Old Xian is with me too. I wonder if you're free in the afternoon? Wang Xian hesitated before he nodded. Okay, I'll pop by. I'll send you the address, or I can get someone to pick you up. I can go over on my own. You can just send me the address. Sure, see you later. Wang Xian nodded and hung up. He glanced at Xiao Yu and the other two girls with a shrug of his shoulders. Xiao Yu, I can't keep you company in the afternoon. I've got something going on. That's great. It would be inconvenient for the three girls to follow you around too. Hee hee. Besides, we can check out the school too, said Xiao Yu to Wang Xian with a smile. You little one, go ahead and have fun. I've got to go. Wang Xian patted her head and followed them to the school. He came to the back of the dormitory and rode on his Harley motorcycle before he headed to the place old Shue sent him. Wow, Xiao Yu. The Harley motorcycle that your brother is riding is so cool. Do you think I could stand a chance with him after I slim down? Su Qian looked at Wang Xian with affectionate eyes. She then looked at her plump figure with dissatisfaction. Hee hee, my brother seems to have a girlfriend. But if you slim down, I'm sure you will be gorgeous. Xiao Yu chuckled as she spoke. You're very kind, said Yuan gratefully as she gazed at Wang Xian who had left, and Xiao Yu who was right by her side. That's enough. I wanted to get my brother to bring us out. But since he has something on, we can walk around and get some daily necessities. We should also decorate our room too. The address that old Shue sent him was not Summer Sun Resort. It was another place. An area that was near the sea with many villas, bamboo forest estate. When he reached it, Wang Xian made a call, and Shui Jing rushed over soon after. Brother Wang Xian, you're here. My grandfather and old Qin are waiting for you. What did old Shui and old Qin ask me here for? Wang Xian asked Shui Jing curiously. Shui Jing paused before he said, Should be something to do with the Underworld affairs. Underworld affairs? Shui Jing nodded slowly. There were two ecosystems in the current modern world, society and Underworld. Underworld was a place for people who possessed domineering powers. Wang Xian followed Shui Jing into the villa, which was surrounded by a bamboo forest. Along the path, he found a quiet stream with a small bridge that made a picturesque scene. From the wooden door, he entered into a courtyard where he could see some nostalgic and posh-looking houses. In the courtyard were some ponds with ornamental fish. Old Qin and old Shui were sitting under a willow tree on the left, drinking their tea. Wang Xian is here! Both old Shui and old Qin smiled and greeted him as they saw him. Sorry to keep both of you waiting. Wang Xian smiled and sat on the seat beside them. Shui Jing was filling a cup of tea for him. I just arrived not long ago too. Old Qin smiled and shook his head. We wanted to discuss something with you today. Hence, we invited you over. What is it about? Wang Xian took a sip of tea and asked. Let me explain. Old Shui straightened his posture with a solemn expression. It has something to do with the Underworld. Something has been brewing in the Underworld these past 2 days. Those hidden clans and sects revealed themselves one after another. I'm afraid there will be upheavals in the Underworld soon. Oh? Wang Xian expressed his curiosity. Hidden clans? Hidden sects? That's right. The #1 ancient martial arts family in Rivertown, Yan family, returned yesterday after staying out of underworld affairs for 20 years. The Lingluo sect of the provincial city began their recruitment of disciples all of a sudden. Fierce battles broke out between the two sects in the north due to some cultivation treasures. A sect in the eastern sea announced that they will be expanding and recruiting more disciples. The Sacred Followers Guild began their recruitment too. Old Shui explained this slowly to him. Yan family? Disciples' recruitments? Wang Xian was deep in thought. Why did these hidden clans and sects start their recruitments all of a sudden? Because they wanted to compete for resources in advance. Old Shui frowned and continued. Currently, the cultivation resources are lacking. It is even scarce when we're now in the modern era. These hidden clans needed more people to search for resources, tackle other living creatures, and refine medicines. Other living creatures? Wang Xian was stunned as he raised his eyebrows. Yes, Wang Xian. You may not know these. Humans are not the only domineering ones on Earth. There are also other creatures around. Let's not go into the mysterious ocean. Numerous spirits and monsters lie in the mountains and rivers too. Creatures like sea monsters that lurk around various lakes and the well-known monsters in the mountains are all spirits and monsters. Just like Dahai Lake in the river town. I'm sure you would have heard of all the tales about the sea monsters in Dahai Lake. Upon hearing that, Wang Xian nodded his head gently. Dahai Lake was a lake that connected to the sea. The lake was huge with a depth of 178 meters. He knew about the tales with regards to the sea monsters in Dahai Lake, but he did not pay attention to it. The tales about the water and sea monsters have always been around. But not all are rumors. They really exist. Currently, we're lacking cultivation resources. Hence, we need to find other ways to them. Just recently, someone caught some powerful creatures to enhance their own strength, and the effect was significant. Currently, various ancient martial artist families surfaced just to compete for these resources. The Underworld will be greeted with bloodshed and brutal fights again. At that time, not only the hidden ancient martial artist families will be involved, but ancient sects might also join in too. Wang Xian listened quietly to the conversation between Old Qin and Old Shui. From the conversation, he had a deeper understanding of the cultivation techniques of the various clans and sects in this world. Currently, not only the ancient martial arts existed, but there were also ancient yoga, ninjutsu, Western bloodline art, and beast transformation art. But in actual fact, all cultivation arts may seem different, but they were similar to each other. Towards the later stages of the cultivation, all the goals of the cultivations were the same. Wang Xian not only learned about the cultivation arts, but he also found out a lot of anecdotes about the underworld's mountain spirits and sea monsters. That's interesting. Sea monsters? Currently, my cultivation speed is too slow. Perhaps I can devour them or recruit some sea monsters to build up the Dragon Palace as soon as possible. Wang Xian pondered to himself. He was not concerned about those hidden clans which surfaced in the underworld again. He trusted himself. And the dragon sect which was developing rapidly. Chapter 96, Prime Minister Turtle, 1. There was still another reason why Old Qin and Old Shui invited him over for a discussion, and that was strength in numbers. They hoped that Wang Xian would ally with them and that they could help one another out. When Wang Xian understood their thinking, he hesitated for a moment before agreeing to the suggestion. The reason as to why Wang Xian chose to ally with Old Qin and Old Shui wasn't because of their strength. Instead, he felt that Old Qin and Old Shui were nice people and worthy friends. Otherwise, with his current strength and the powers of the dragon sect, it wasn't necessary for him to ally with them. When he walked out of the meeting with Old Qin and Old Shui, it was already 8 p.m. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before heading towards the sea. He hadn't been back for a few days and was wondering about the progress of the establishment of Dragon Sect. At the seaside, Wang Xian removed his clothes and easily jumped out over 10 meters. Splash! After letting out a light roar, Wang Xian transformed into a 5 meters long divine dragon. 5 elements divine dragon with 5 different colors. Wiggling his body, Wang Xian swam towards the island in the middle of the sea at an incredible speed. Executing water-controlling techniques along the way, he arrived at the island 5 kilometers away in a single minute. There are quite a number of boats around. Wang Xian noticed a few boats around the island. The island was brightly lit, and he could see some figures moving on the island. With a thought, an invisible dragon power spread towards the island. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Soon, several figures descended by the seaside. Dragon King! Dragon King! Amo Qinglong and his disciple, together with all the Dragonians, rushed over and kneeled down in front of Wang Xian with respect. Martial Artist Level 6. Not bad. To be able to reach Level 6 in such a short time. Wang Xian looked towards the group of Dragonians before turning his attention to Emo Qinglong and his disciple. Emo Qinglong had already reached the Inborn Realm and his disciple had reached Martial Artist Level 8. What's the progress of establishing Dragon Sect? Wang Xian looked at the island and asked. Dragon King, we are right on track. In just about another month, Dragon Sect will be established. At that time, our might will definitely spread through the world. Emo Qinglong's eyes lit up as he reported. Great. Cultivate diligently. Wang Dahai nodded his head. Flipping backward, he dove back into the sea. Sending off the Dragon King. The group of Dragonians kneeled down and shouted in unison. Wang Xian went over to the Clam Girl. Clam Girl opened her shell slowly and revealed her human form. She immediately greeted him. Wang Xian nodded his head before devouring the marine animals in the sea. Bohai Sea is too shallow. The variety of fish is too limited. After devouring a small shark, Wang Xian sighed emotionally. Currently, he was about 80 kilometers from land. However, the seas were only about 18 meters deep. There were barely any schools of fish around. As compared to the other sea regions where the depth of water could reach over 1,000 meters, Bohai Sea was too shallow. If he wished to increase his level, Bohai Sea would be hard to satisfy his desire. To increase my level, it would be more effective to look for higher level marine animals. Higher level? Wang Xian pondered. Suddenly, a place appeared in his mind. Dahai Lake. There was a rumor about a huge sea monster in Dahai Lake 4 years ago. Some people reported seeing a huge sea monster that resembled a grinding disc. It had a huge oval-shaped body. Some people caught it in a photograph where one could vaguely see a monster larger than boats, surfacing from the water. However, as the distance was too far, some said that it wasn't a sea monster but just some reflections. There were also people speculating that it should be some giant sharks or similar marine animals that had swam into Dahai Lake. Everyone had their own explanations, and this even attracted a group of researchers. They conducted a search of the entire Dahai Lake but didn't detect any ginormous animal. Therefore, this ended without a conclusive answer. However, the rumors of a sea monster in Dahai Lake didn't just stop there. There were still people claiming to encounter the sea monster from time to time. However, none had concrete evidence, and no one had seen how the sea monster really looks. Old Qin and Old Shui talked about the sea monster of Dahai Lake today. In that case, there might really be a powerful sea monster. Wang Xian thought. Based on his impression, he swam quickly towards where Dahai Lake was located. Dahai Lake was connected to the Bohai Sea. However, since it was deep between the lands, many simply referred to it as Dahai Lake. Dahai Lake covered an area of approximately 20 kilometers. After passing through an entrance of over 100 meters in length and 40 to 50 meters in breadth, Wang Xian entered Dahai Lake. Who would have expected Dahai Lake to be deeper than Bohai Sea? It's at least 20 meters deep here. Wang Xian was slightly shocked. The waters of Dahai Lake were a little murky. Moving his body, he dove in directly. The dragon energy I needed for cultivation is too high now. Ordinary fish don't provide sufficient dragon energy. If there are higher-level marine animals, my cultivation speed would also be quicker. Wang Xian thought. Swaying his tail, he swam towards the middle. The distance of 20 kilometers wasn't far from Wang Xian. He swam to the middle and started observing the surroundings. There were few marine animals around. This was a little strange for a lake so huge. A golden light shot out from Wang Xian's eyes as he looked at the surroundings carefully. He swam in the vicinity while searching, but couldn't find anything unusual. How can there be nothing? If it is like what the people on the internet have said, the sea monster should be at least 10 meters long. I should be able to find it. Wang Xian's eyebrows knitted together, but he continued swaying his tail slowly. Growl! A dragon roar resounded in the Dahai Lake. Wang Xian released all his aura to announce his arrival at Dahai Lake. The current Wang Xian could spread his dragon power to cover a radius of 2 kilometers. All the marine animals within the area were shivering and didn't dare to budge an inch. The water of Dahai Lake was ravaged without cause. Growl! Wang Xian swam to another person and let out another roar. His dragon roar resounded throughout the entire Dahai Lake. Swish! At this moment, Wang Xian could sense something to his back. He immediately turned over and stared at the bottom of the lake. Indeed! The sea monster truly exists. Wang Xian looked forward, and in the direction he was facing, a huge animal was floating up gradually. It seemed to have been lying on the bottom of the water with its entire body sunk into the mud. As he floated upward slowly, the mud on his body slowly fell off. The image of the giant shell became clearer and clearer to Wang Xian. On the shell, there were small sharp edges that looked like it was made from mud. So big, so big! At the front of the large shell that spanned at least 10 meters, a head slowly extended out. His head was black and had sharp edges on it. Although its eyes were black, it had a glow that could be seen through the water in the middle of the night. Roar! Who are you? He opened his mouth and let out a roar, showing creepy-looking teeth. He looked directly at Wang Xian. It has intelligence. When Wang Xian heard this dinosaur-like turtle's growl, he was slightly shocked. Spiritual Turtle, Level 10. Extractable Dragon Energy, 123,272. A Level 10 Spiritual Turtle? That's equivalent to an inborn realm expert. Wang Xian was shocked, and his eyes lit up with excitement as he stared at this spiritual turtle. Chapter 97, Prime Minister Turtle, 2. I am the Dragon King, the world's only true dragon. Wang Xian slightly lifted his head and stared at the spiritual turtle. Succumb to me, or you'll get devoured by me. Succumb? I'm the turtle ancestor. You're just a mere dragon king, and you have the cheek to ask me to succumb to you? Ignorant! The spiritual turtle had a high intelligence, as he stared coldly at Wang Xian with a tilting head. His eyes had a disdainful look in them. Even though he could sense the domineering strength from the odd creature in front of him, he was not afraid as his physical size was larger than it. Besides, he had lived for thousands of years. As the ancestor of the turtles, how could he succumb to anyone? Turtle ancestor? Wang Xian was a little stunned when he heard the spiritual turtle calling himself the turtle ancestor. It was unexpected for him to encounter a cocky spiritual turtle. If that's the case, you're choosing the second alternative. Wang Xian swung his tail gently as he gazed at the gigantic spiritual turtle. Courting your own death. Since you interrupted my sleep, I'll eat you up. The spiritual turtle opened his mouth wide as he attacked Wang Xian without any fear. He shook his body, and the mud around the area spread out. The entire region turned murky, and the visibility dropped. Earth control? Once again, Wang Xian displayed a surprised look when he saw the fluctuation in the surrounding earth. This was the most formidable marine animal that he had ever encountered. Not only did the creature have intelligence, it even had superpower. I know earth control too. Wang Xian displayed a cold smile on his face. He slightly wriggled his body, and the soil in the murky sea was filtered from the water. The soil then gathered and formed into a ball of dirt. When the surrounding water was cleared, Wang Xian saw the spiritual turtle, which had swum to a location within 5 meters away from him. A smirk surfaced on his face. Earthy Thorn! Earthy Thorn was a simple technique in his earth control arts. The current Wang Xian was still too weak, and he had yet to master his control of the 5 elements. If he grew stronger, he could control all the surrounding earth and bury everything around it. You can control the earth too. The spiritual turtle was taken aback when he saw the incoming earthy thorn. However, there was no fear in him as he lowered his head slowly. Bam! The earthy thorn landed on the durable shell of the spiritual turtle, leaving no trace on it. Go to hell! The spiritual turtle suddenly accelerated as he opened his enormous mouth to bite Wang Xian. Upon seeing the dense and sharp teeth in his mouth, Wang Xian knew that he could bite off a piece of meat from him if he were caught in it. Go and die! Wang Xian looked at the spiritual turtle with a disdainful look in his eyes. Even though he was only level 6, he had no fear when confronted by creatures who were of inborn levels. As a 5 elements divine dragon, level 10 marine animals could not pose any threat to him. Metal counters wood, wood counters earth, earth counters fire, and fire counters metal. The 5 elements reinforce and counteract each other. The colors on Wang Xian's body changed and turned green eventually. The azure dragon with wood attribution can counteract all earth in the world. Wang Xian stretched out his dragon claws with thistles and thorns slithering and twining themselves around the mouth of the spiritual turtle. Roar! Wang Xian let out a dragon roar while exhaling a gush of green breath. As the green breath hit the aquatic plants in the surrounding area, the plants began to shoot up frantically. The water plants entangled themselves to form ropes. They slid towards the spiritual turtle and entwined the spiritual turtle. In an instant, the spiritual turtle was trapped within the woody field which spanned across a radius of 20 meters. Such a powerful 5 elements reinforcement! Looking at the woody field that he created, Wang Xian was rather surprised. When he was in the human form, he was 5 times weaker than he was in dragon form. Hence, he was unable to create such a powerful woody field. Moreover, he was unable to interchange the 5 elements when he was in human form. Hence, he was even weaker, and his combat skill would be weaker by 10 folds. Let me go! Let me go! The spiritual turtle struggled violently, but he realized that the seaweed around him was not giving way except to tighten its grip on him. Besides, the counteract of the 5 elements made it even more difficult for the spiritual turtle, with a heavy body, to break free. Turtle meat makes a great tonic. Heh, I'll chop off your limbs and barbecue them. Then I'll cook your head for the soup. Hee hee. Oh no. The head cannot be used for the soup. I'll throw it away. Heh. Wang Xian revealed his creepy teeth as he observed the turtle with a thought in his mind. I'll surrender to you. Don't kill me. Spare my life, great king! The spiritual turtle hid his head in his gigantic shell with eyes full of fear as he pleaded. Just now, I asked you to surrender to me. You refused. Now you're surrendering to me because you can't win against me? Wang Xian stared coldly. Great king, I'll give all the treasures that I've collected to you. Please spare my life, said the spiritual turtle hurriedly. Treasures? What treasures? Wang Xian quickly asked with eyes brightened up. I'll get them for you. But please don't kill me. Fine, don't think of running away. I can easily kill you. Wang Xian nodded. He was not afraid that the spiritual turtle would escape. With a thought, the surrounding seaweed retracted rapidly and turned into ordinary seaweed again. With a pair of wary eyes, the spiritual turtle looked at Wang Xian before he swam to the back. Wang Xian followed him and came to the place where he'd been just now. Ka. The spiritual turtle came to the place where he'd been and manipulated the earth below him. As he did that, individual items began to surface and float up. What are all these things? Wang Xian looked at the floating things that resembled turtle shells with shock. Trophies, king! These are my trophies. Those little turtles who fought with me were all killed by me. These are their shells. The spiritual turtle shifted his gigantic body as he spoke. Pervert! Wang Xian looked at the pile of turtle shells beside him and blew his dragon beard. Among these turtle shells, there was one that was about 5 meters in size. It must have been a formidable one before it was slaughtered by this spiritual turtle, unfortunately. King, I'm formidable, the spiritual turtle said proudly. Fine. I have no interest in your trophies. Swallow this blood essence, and do not think of resisting. Wang Xian moved his claw, and a drop of dragon blood entered the spiritual turtle's mouth. The dragon blood was no longer gold in color. Instead, it was 5 different colors. The spiritual turtle closed his eyes without putting up any resistance. It's done. From now on, you'll be the Prime Minister Turtle of the Dragon Palace. The moment Wang Xian spotted such an enormous spiritual turtle, he had already made up his mind. The Dragon Palace needed a Prime Minister Turtle. Ding! You've subdued 3 marine animals and fulfilled the criteria for constructing the Dragon Palace. Level 1 Dragon Palace can be established deep in the seabed with resistance to floods and fires. It will form a region of its own. The required materials to build 100 tons of gold, 100,000 tons of silver, 1 million of brass, 10,000 of refined iron, 1 million of coral reef, 1 ton each for gemstones with 5 different colors and 1 ton of spiritual stones. At this moment, the system notification sounded off, which made him freeze. He seldom heard the system notification apart from the beginning where he had just become a dragon. Now, the system actually prompted him about the Dragon Palace. Initially, Wang Xian thought he needed to build his Dragon Palace by mastering the Divine Dragon transformation. Never did he expect that the system was building it for him. Surprise! Chapter 98, Wang Dahai. It seems like the system still has a lot of functions that aren't unlocked, and only would be when I've reached a certain level. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Name Wang Xian. Race 5 elements Divine Dragon, able to transform into a human. Level 6. Dragon Energy 563, 421/100, 000,000. Superpower, dominate the marine animals, ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than your own level. Devour any form of marine animals, for extraction of dragon energy. 5 elements control. Art of Cultivation, Divine Dragon Transformation. Level 1 Dragon Palace, not built, required materials 0/100. Dragon Palace subordinates, Turtle Race 1, Clam Race 1, Lobster Race 1. It has changed. My personal information has changed. There are additional line items of Dragon Palace and Dragon Palace subordinates. Divine dragons exist in this universe. However, I'm not just an ordinary divine dragon, but also possess a godlike divine dragon system. The cultivation of divine dragons couldn't extract divine energy by devouring marine animals. Instead, they have to cultivate diligently. As for me, due to the system, I could make use of the system to convert them directly into dragon energy. As compared to the divine dragon race, there's a huge difference. Similarly, I could build the strongest dragon palace directly through the system. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Divine dragon system was relatively more unique. It couldn't make one become an unparalleled divine dragon directly, and required that he take one step at a time. The focus of Invincible Divine Dragon Cultivation System was in cultivation. Only by going through each step could he become an invincible divine dragon. One should know that the strongest races of the universe weren't just the dragon race. However, he could make use of the system to become an invincible existence. But Wang Xian had a million thoughts running in his mind. In the end, he had a bitter look on his face and couldn't help but curse. Isn't the material required to build the Dragon Palace a little too much? Disregarding others, just 100 tons of gold would be an astronomical sum. 100 tons of gold would be 100 million grams. Taking the price of gold to be $330 per gram, he would need $33 billion. The $33 billion was even before he considered other materials. The total sum required to build a dragon palace would be astronomical. Wang Xian's expression darkened. He couldn't even take out 100 million currently, let alone $30 billion. Poor, I'm still too poor. Wang Xian pulled a long face and took a deep breath. This is forcing me to rule the world so as to look for the resources. Forget it. I might not need to rule the world, but I do need to earn some money. Once I have the money, the gold and other materials could be bought. It is just that spiritual stone wouldn't be easy to get. Spiritual stone was a condensed form of pure energy. However, he hadn't seen one previously. Therefore, it was most likely very valuable. Wang Xian shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He wanted to take this step by step, as it hadn't even been a month since he became a divine dragon. The money would come and so would the dragon palace. King! At this moment, the spiritual turtle disrupted Wang Xian's thoughts. Wang Xian looked at the spiritual turtle. The spiritual turtle was drastically different from when he first saw it. Its shell looked a little sturdier, and wasn't like the ground beetle previously. It even looked rather majestic. Not bad, not bad. I'll call you Prime Minister Turtle in the future. Don't address me as King. Call me Dragon King. Yes, Dragon King. Prime Minister Turtle thanks Dragon King for the name. Sure, sure. Wang Xian looked at Prime Minister Turtle with satisfaction. Although its current appearance wasn't great, it was highly intelligent. A Prime Minister Turtle that doesn't know how to bootlick isn't a good Prime Minister Turtle. Why don't you head into the seas? Why do you choose to stay in this lake? Wang Xian asked peculiarly. It's more comfortable here and I won't be disturbed. Prime Minister Turtle answered honestly. All right. Wang Xian was a little speechless. Waving his arm, the Earth Dragon cultivation arts of the Divine Dragon transformation was imprinted in his mind. Cultivate diligently here. I'll make my move now. After finishing his words, Wang Xian headed out immediately. Time flew past quickly, and he had to return. He had a fruitful night. Not only did he manage to subdue a Prime Minister Turtle, but he had also gotten an idea of the process of building his dragon palace. However, no one would have imagined that the sea monster of Dahai Lake was actually a large and horrifying turtle that spanned over 10 meters. When he arrived at school from the seaside, it was already past 9 a.m. Just as he stepped into the dormitory room, a rough voice sounded. What the? Old Wang, you are finally back. I called you so many times but you didn't pick up. Come, accompany me to buy some clothes today. Wang Xian lifted his head and immediately saw a fat head extending out of the bed. Dahai, why are you so early? What a rare occasion! Wang Dahai had the same surname as him and was a year older than Wang Xian. He weighed around 190 caddies. He had all the strengths of a fatty, such as being honest, upright, and conservative on the outside but passionate on the inside. He was the closest friend Wang Xian had in the dormitory. Wang Dahai was a local of Rivertown. Typically, he wouldn't report to school before school started. It would seem that he had arrived the previous day and was acting a little strange. I have something in mind, hee. Wang Dahai chuckled. Looking at his horny look, it must be related to a girl. Old Wang, I'll get up right now. Accompany me to buy some clothes. Wang Dahai stood up as he spoke. Speaking of Wang Xian's nickname, Old Wang, there was a meaning behind it. The story was from the beginning of freshman year. At that time, there was a guy from the opposite dormitory block who liked a girl from their class. However, that girl was more interested in Wang Xian. After that guy confessed and got rejected, Wang Xian got another nickname. Old Wang the neighbor. Or in short, Old Wang. Almost everyone in the dormitory addressed him as such. Buy clothes? I have to accompany my sister today. My sister has arrived. Wang Xian chuckled. Your sister, Xiao Yu, has arrived? Wang Dahai was a little surprised. Why don't we ask your sister, Xiao Yu, along? Let me ask her about it. Wang Xian didn't reject the suggestion. Wang Dahai was a great guy and had been taking good care of him. He had treated Wang Xian to multiple meals and even lent Wang Xian his motorcycle over the summer holidays. After getting Wang Xian's call, Xiao Yu replied, Brother, I'm going to take a look at the school clubs with Xiaomi, Yuan and Su Qian. I guess I won't be going. Wang Xian nodded his hand. All right, have fun. I'll accompany my roommate to get some stuff. Give me a moment to wash up. Upon hearing Wang Xian's words, Wang Dahai immediately jumped up and started washing up. Where are we going to get clothes? Wang Xian asked. City center. Why do you want to go to the city center to get clothes? Can't you just get them from the shops beside the school? Oh right, you haven't told me why you arrived at school so early? Wang Xian looked at Wang Dahai. Hee. Wang Dahai chuckled. He stuck his head out of the washroom and said, Let me bring you to have some fun tonight. You got a date? Is she from our school? Wang Xian asked in shock. She's a senior. Hee, It was initially last night, but she went out with her roommates for dinner. Therefore, it was postponed to tonight. Old Wang, you are lucky. Damn, why does it feel like you've gotten more handsome since the last time I saw you a month ago? If only you were a little uglier. You would then be able to show how tall and mighty I am. Sigh. It's okay, who asked me to be so kind? She said she would be bringing her roommates along. Perhaps they might find you handsome and have a relationship that lasts for a single night with you. Chapter 99, Brother Xian, Brother Xian. As Wang Dahai nagged, Wang Xian gave a funny look. After bathing, Wang Dahai changed his clothes and made a few poses in front of the mirror. Not bad. Even though I'm slightly plump, my features are perfect, giving off a sense of security. Wang Dahai looked into the mirror as he was satisfied with his look. Will this work this time? Don't get disappointed again. Wang Xian looked at him and chuckled. Wang Dahai had an experience of dating a girl from the internet. In the end, the petite girl left after seeing him. There's hope this time. I'm sure. Wang Dahai's eyes brightened up. I met this girl before. So, I'm not afraid that she will run away after she sees me. All right, let's go. Wang Xian laughed as he went down with Wang Dahai. Give me the keys. I'll drive you, Wang Dahai told Wang Xian. Your motorcycle was damaged by me. So, I bought another one. Wang Xian smiled and said. Damaged? Wang Dahai was stunned and shouted at him. If you've damaged it, just let it be. Why do you still have to buy another one? Look, you should have told me earlier. I have two at home. Why did you have to buy one? Wang Xian felt warm in his heart. Wang Dahai said these things because he knew about his family's situation. Wang Dahai's family was SOSO and was considered to be middle class. They were not of high status, but neither were they poor. With a sum of $3,000 monthly allowance, it was considered an average amount. Let's go. I'll show you a new bike. Wang Xian arched his lips slightly as he brought him to the back of the dormitory. Wow, Harley. It's the Harley motorcycle. This is my dream heavy-duty motorcycle. I'll get one when I'm rich. Wang Dahai brightened his eyes as he stared at the Harley motorcycle with an envious look as soon as he was at the back. With a face full of smiles, Wang Xian took the keys and walked up. Do you want to try? Sigh, I can only look at it. This Harley costs at least a few $100,000. I wonder who the rich guy is who put it here. Envy. If tonight. Wang Dahai was talking with a face full of regrets. However, his face stiffened up as he spoke. He saw Wang Xian take out the key, unlock the bike, and push it out. Gosh! Old Wang! Brother Xian! This. Wang Dahai looked at Wang Xian with astonished expressions. What's the matter? Look at my dressing. Don't I deserve this bike? Wang Xian smiled and pointed to his clothes as he put on the flashy sunglasses kept in the motorcycle. Givenchy. Givenchy's clothes. It's authentic. Old Wang, did you win some lottery? Wang Dahai had just noticed the brand on Wang Xian's clothes. He jumped immediately, shocked. There is one thing that I have never told you. I'm actually an affluent second generation in disguise. I can inherit the family's assets now since I've turned 20. Wang Xian joked with a smiling face. Really? Didn't you have only one sister? Wang Dahai seemed to buy his words as he looked at him. Let's go. You just have to know that I'm not a pauper anymore. Wang Xian beckoned him and asked him to sit at the back seat. Gosh, this is so cool! Wang Dahai rubbed his palms together as he got excited. Can I try it too? You can ride around the school. But you can forget about riding it in the city center. You don't have a license. That's true. But you got to let me enjoy it during the normal days. Get lost, enjoy my ass. Brother Xian, you'll be the big brother from now on. I'm Xiao Hai. Wang Xian started the engine and rode to the city center with Wang Dahai. As soon as Wang Dahai entered the mall, he began to shop. The reserved Wang Dahai even bought a pair of golden rimless glasses. What a flashy look! Wang Xian looked at him speechlessly. Looks like you really took a fancy to the girl tonight. She's the true love of my life. Brother Xian, tonight is the night. Wang Dahai patted Wang Xian on his shoulder. It's still early now. Where are we going? Wang Xian looked at the time. Let's go back. I want to dress myself up, then recharge myself in an internet cafe. Wang Dahai was full of fighting spirit. Wang Xian followed Wang Dahai back to the dormitory helplessly. After they rested for a while, they came to the internet cafe. In the evening, Wang Dahai called the girl, but the girl asked him to wait. Wang Xian asked if the other party would stand him up tonight. Wang Dahai patted his chest and said she would never do that. In fact, the later they met, the better. Wang Xian could not figure out his train of thought. But when it was 8 p.m., the girl called him. Let's meet at the school entrance. Let's go. Ha! 8 p.m. Let's have fun tonight. Wang Dahai had shiny hair with exhilarating expressions all over his face. It's so late. Where are we going at such an hour? Asked Wang Xian speechlessly. The pub, of course. Wang Dahai raised his eyebrows. Let's go. We'll take the Harley motorcycle, and the remaining 3 ladies can take a cab. All right, let's go. As Wang Xian arrived at the entrance with Wang Dahai on the bike, the 3 trendy-looking girls were standing there. The 3 girls were all in miniskirts. One of them even wore a pair of black stockings. Temptations in the air. Rong, this is my roommate Wang Xian. We're heading to the place on our bike. The 3 of you will share a cab. Is that okay? He spoke with a smile. As soon as Wang Dahai saw them, he hopped off the bike before he came to a girl whose face was round. Sure, then I'll see you at the pub. Sure, I'll get you a cab before we leave, said Wang Dahai with smiles all over his face as he acted like a gentleman. The other 2 girls next to them observed Wang Dahai before they turned and looked at Wang Xian, who was on the bike. It's here. 3 beautiful ladies, you may leave first. We'll wait for you at the entrance. As soon as the cab arrived, Wang Dahai spoke with a smile. Sure, we'll meet you at the pub entrance. The girl named Rong waved to him as she sat inside. Rong, is he Wang Dahai? He's fat. But his roommate is quite handsome. Yes, that's him. I turned him down yesterday. But he kept pestering me to hang out with him. Since we've got nothing going on today, let's go out and get high. Then let's enjoy ourselves today. I saw them riding the Harley motorcycle. They should be quite loaded. Let's have a feast today. I'm telling all of you in advance. Don't get yourselves drunk like the other day. No, we won't. That roommate of his is handsome. Do you want to seduce him later on? Damn you, I've got a boyfriend. The girls were laughing and chatting in the cab. Charge! My life happiness depends on today. Wang Dahai sat on the bike and yelled at Wang Xian excitedly. Fine, for your happiness. Charge! Chapter 100 Love Bar. Love Bar was a bar on a street of Rivertown that was relatively more well-known, relatively well-received, and had a relatively better atmosphere. Wang Xian and Wang Dahai reached the entrance of the bar before the girls. Wang Dahai waited by the side anxiously. Why are you so excited? You look just like a bull that's in heat. Looking at Wang Dahai, Wang Xian found it hilarious. You wouldn't understand. This is true love. If you encounter the girl you really like, you would be the same as me. Rong is the cutest girl I've ever seen. I definitely want her to be my girlfriend. Wang Dahai spoke resolutely. Wang Xian was taken aback. This was still the first time he had seen Wang Dahai being so serious about chasing after a girl. He patted him on the shoulder and encouraged. All the best. She's here, she's here. Wang Dahai saw them walk out from a rented car and quickly went up to receive them. When Rong saw Wang Dahai, she spoke with a smile. Let's go. We can reserve a table for the 5 of us to chat and drink. Sure, let's go in. Wang Dahai nodded his head and the group of 5 walked towards the bar. Once they entered the bar, deafening music overwhelmed their ears. Wang Xian's eyebrows knitted together. This was the first time he'd visited a bar and wasn't used to such an atmosphere. Looking towards the dancing platform, he saw a group of young men and women fooling around. Some were even grinding on each other. Under the faint and shimmering lights, there was a sense of vileness filling the atmosphere. Wang Xian looked at Wang Dahai and noticed that he was also frowning. The three girls seemed to be familiar with the place as they walked towards a long table. Immediately, the waiter walked over. "Girls, which set meal would you like to have?" the waiter asked as he handed over a price list to the three girls. Rongrong took a look at the price list before ordering. "The $1,888 set meal. Besides that, we want 2 bottles of Chivas Regal." "All right, please wait a moment." Wang Dahai and Wang Xian sat down. When he saw the prices on the price list, he frowned. "Dahai, a $1,888 set meal with 2 bottles of Chivas Regal of $400. That's already more than $2,600. $2,600? Wang Dahai put aside the price list and whispered. "Old Wang, since I'm here, I've made preparations. If I don't spend this, how could I get the girl?" "All right then, all the best." Wang Xian smiled and patted his shoulders. "Come, Rongrong. I had not expected your roommates to all be so beautiful." Wang Dahai quickly started flirting. As for Wang Xian, he simply sat quietly and observed. The waiter quickly brought over the alcohol, fruits, and nuts. Wang Xian took a bottle of alcohol and poured some for himself. After trying a mouthful, he put it down. "Fake alcohol. Handsome, are you from the same class as Wang Dahai?" Just as Wang Xian was feeling bored and looking around, a girl sat beside him. The girl had a good figure, but her face was a little long. She gave off a vixen vibe and could be considered as good-looking overall. "Yeah." Wang Xian nodded his head before looking toward Wang Dahai. "Hey pretty, do you think Dahai has a chance with Rongrong?" "This?" The girl thought for a while before continuing. "I'll tell you if you finish 2 more cups." "All right." Wang Xian shrugged his shoulders helplessly and gulped down 2 cups of alcohol. "I believe you can tell me now?" "I don't know about it." "Ha! If Wang Dahai works hard, he might have a chance." Wang Xian was speechless upon hearing her reply. It was equivalent to not saying anything. "Come, handsome, let's have a toast." That girl leaned over and had half of her body on Wang Xian. At this moment, Wang Xian could even smell her perfume. Wang Xian frowned. "I'm not good with alcohol. Just have a little." "Oh right, handsome. Do you have a girlfriend?" the girl asked directly. "Yeah." Wang Xian hesitated for a while. "I do." "Huh? You have a girlfriend? Do you mind changing one?" The girl looked at him with her pair of large eyes and even blinked flirtatiously at him. Looking at the girl, Wang Xian felt as though he was a weak little lamb. The other party had ample experiences with flirting. Although Wang Xian was being picked up by the girl, he wasn't feeling happy at all. The girl in front of him couldn't be compared with Guan Shuqing or Lan Qingwei at all. She was just like a prostitute to Wang Xian. Shameless and revealing. Wang Xian wasn't too interested in continuing chatting, and simply said a few perfunctory words in response. That girl saw how Wang Xian acted and started frowning. Contempt flashed in her eyes and she went back to her previous seat beside the other girl directly. At about 10 p.m., Wang Dahai said to Wang Xian, "Let's go to the bathroom, old Wang." "Sure." Wang Xian nodded his head and followed him to the bathroom. The girls behind them took a look at them but soon went back to playing among themselves. "How was it?" Entering the washroom, Wang Xian glanced at Wang Dahai and asked. "This?" Wang Dahai frowned. "Rongrong is pretty good, but doesn't feel like a student and was very open?" Wang Xian hesitated for a moment and added, "Yeah." Wang Dahai didn't know how to describe it and simply nodded his head. For a female university student to be so open in such a place, it was clear that she was a frequent patron. This made Wang Dahai, who was a little chauvinistic, a little uncomfortable. "That's how I felt too." "Dahai, you've got to think about it." "I know." Let's see how it goes. It was very comfortable to chat with her. Wang Dahai replied after thinking for a moment. Wang Dahai took out a cigarette to smoke. After he was done, he signaled to Wang Xian to return. The two of them walked towards their seats. There were a lot more people at the bar than when they had arrived. This was natural, as the nightlife had just started after 10 p.m. Huh! To their surprise, they saw 4 other men when they were back at their seats. These 4 young men were sitting in their seats and chatting happily with the 3 girls. On the table, there were 5 bottles of imported wine and over 20 bottles of beer. Wang Xian and Wang Dahai exchanged gazes before finding another place to sit. Come Dahai, let me introduce them to you. This is Lingling's boyfriend and our friends. We happened to bump into them, so I asked them over. It's livelier with more people. Rongrong moved towards Wang Dahai and spoke to him with smiles. Rongrong, is this the handsome guy who is wooing you? He's not as handsome as me. A young man beside Rongrong took a glance at Wang Dahai and chuckled. You are handsome? Rongrong rolled her eyes at him. Am I not? The young man leaned over towards Rongrong. Scram! Get further away from me! Rongrong stretched over to whack him. Don't! Seeing the two of them flirting with each other, Wang Dahai's eyebrows twitched and wasn't looking well. Dahai, shall we go? Wang Xian saw everything. He moved towards Wang Dahai and spoke softly. All right. Wang Dahai took a deep breath and forced out a smile. He looked at Rongrong and said, Rongrong, I'm sorry. We just received a call and have something urgent to attend to. We will be going off now. Huh! Rongrong frowned upon hearing Wang Dahai. However, she immediately remarked. In that case, get the bill before you go. All right. Wang Dahai nodded his head unwillingly. He shouted to the waiter at the corner. Waiter, bill please. All right, sir. A waiter walked over. Your total bill. Wait a minute. Get us 2 more cartons of beer and 2 bottles of whiskey. At this moment, one of the young men interrupted. All right, sir. The waiter nodded his head. After recalculating, he continued. Adding those that this mister ordered, your total bill is $9,380. What? $9,380? Wang Dahai was shocked and looked at the waiter in disbelief. Chapter 101 Fight. Yes, sir, $9,308. This is your receipt. You may check. The waiter nodded and passed him the receipt. Wang Dahai took the receipt with an embarrassed look. When they started to drink, the cover and a few drinks had cost just more than $2,000. Even after a second round of drinks ordered, he calculated that it would only add up to not more than $4,000. How did it end up at $9,308? But when he looked at the drinks that were ordered while they were away in the bathroom, Wang Dahai darkened his expression. 5 bottles of alcohol that cost more than $4,000. On top of that, those fruit and snack platters they ordered added up to the $9,308. The price was clearly stated, and the pub was not at fault. Wang Xian looked at the bill and darkened his expression. Wang Dahai did not have over $9,000 with him. His family was well off, but not to the extent of getting more than $10,000 for his monthly allowances. $9,000 was peanuts to Wang Xian. He could pay without batting his eyes. But he was unhappy with what the 3 girls did. They probably treated Wang Dahai as someone who could be bullied by his generosity. It is right to treat and pay for the 3 of you. But your friends tagged along. What does that mean? Wang Xian looked at Wang Dahai, who was looking embarrassed. Wang Dahai was a person who did not want to shame himself. He could not bring himself to say something as he would rather not disgrace himself. More than $9,000? Wang Xian took over the bill and put it on the table. He told the waiter. When we were here, we only ordered drinks that cost about $2,600. We'll pay for that. We did not order the rest. The waiter looked at Wang Xian. So who will pay for the rest? You'll have to ask them that. We are only paying for what we drank, Wang Xian said nonchalantly. Her? 3 girls and 4 young men looked over at Wang Xian. What? You want us to pay? The girl who seduced Wang Xian just now frowned at them and asked. The drinks and fruits that we treated the 3 of you to will be paid for by us. The ones that you treated your friends to should be paid for by you guys. Wang Xian stared at the girl and said. What? What do you mean by this? Upon hearing what Wang Xian said, Rongrong stood up angrily and glared at Wang Dahai. Wang Dahai, what do you mean by this? You asked us out to the pub, and now you want us to pay for ourselves? On hearing Rongrong's question, Wang Dahai's expression was even more awful than before. He gritted his teeth, lifted his chin, and stared at Rongrong. I'll treat you to your drinks. But not your friends. Besides, you guys just ordered the drinks that amount to $9,000 while we were in the bathroom. Do you think I'm a fathead? Wang Dahai had finally seen the true colors of Rongrong, so he spoke without giving her any face. Fathead? Rongrong jeered at him. Hey, you were the one who asked us out. Now you think we've ordered too much, and you refuse to pay for it. Do you count yourself as a man? If you don't have that kind of money, don't woo any girls. $9,000 is considered expensive? Then why are you here? A girl next to Rongrong criticized with a sharp remark. That's right, you 2 paupers. If you had said that you're broke, we would not have come out with you. Now you refuse to foot the bill. Are you a man? How dare you ask people out when you're acting this way? Aren't you a joke? The 3 girls took turns to mock him as they looked at him disdainfully. Upon hearing their remarks, coldness flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. He looked at Wang Dahai, who was quivering, and took a step forward. We're buying drinks for the 3 of you. Not your friends. So? You need to bring your friends along to get the treats? Don't they have money? Hey, lad. What do you mean by this? Are you saying that we are so broke that we have to get free drinks from you? A young man rolled up his sleeves as he stood up. He stared coldly at Wang Xian when he heard what he said. If you have the money, how about paying for what you've ordered? Wang Xian stared at the young man and said emotionlessly. We'll pay for the beginning round of drinks. You can pay for the rest that you've ordered. I finally got it. Both of you are just too broke, and you guys are finding excuses to leave. If you are broke, why did you ask us out? How funny. Guys like you actually want to woo girls. What a dumb ass. A girl scorned Wang Dahai and Wang Xian. Wang Dahai, I never expected you to be someone like this. Guys like you should be made known in the school forum. Let everyone witness what a pauper you are. You're broke, and you acted tough by asking us out? I bet you borrowed that motorcycle of yours from someone else. Rongrong said to Wang Dahai coldly. You. Wang Dahai stared at Rongrong, who was unkind with her words, with his eyes red. We were blind as we thought you were just ordinary students. Never did I expect that. Hee hee. Wang Xian scoffed and continued. We'll pay for the starting orders. Those that you added on, you'll pay for yourself. Waiter, we'll pay $3,000. The rest you can get from them. We didn't order that. The waiter frowned as he looked at the girls and the 4 young men. Hey, what do you mean by that? Rongrong pointed at Wang Xian and asked furiously. Am I not being obvious enough? Whoever ordered the drinks pays for them. Wang Xian said coldly. Pauper, you're penniless and yet you tried to woo a girl. You're a thrash, the young man said to Wang Xian in a cold tone. Heh heh. Wang Xian sneered. Since you're not a thrash, you can pay for it. Damn you, I have the money. The young man took his wallet from his pocket and slammed it on the table. But I don't like what I see. I'll not pay for the bill. You guys are leaving without paying after you asked the girls out? I have the money too, but I'm not spending it on thrashes. Wang Xian put his foot on the table as he swept his gaze across the 3 girls. Eventually, he stopped at the young man and spoke coldly. Damn, are you seeking trouble? Fuck you. Didn't you find out who I am? I can beat the shit out of you guys. Fuck, you're arrogant. Let me tell you this. Today, you're paying it whether you like it or not. Otherwise, I'll make sure you guys can't walk out of the door. Two jerks are running away without paying after asking us out? Upon seeing the conceited look of Wang Xian, the young men and girls stood up and glared at him. One of the young men even removed his shirt, revealing his vest. The areas that the vest could not conceal were filled with tattoos. Fine. Wang Xian wet his dry lips. He picked up an unopened bottle of wine from the table and smashed it at the middle young man. Bam! Chapter 102. A Man Stopping 10,000 Men. Arg! A blood-curdling scream propagated throughout the bar and even overwhelmed the deafening music. Tragic, really tragic. The whole bottle of alcohol smashed into the head of a man, making him bleed profusely immediately. The other three young men and girls were stunned. They looked at their companion, whose head was bleeding profusely, in disbelief. Damn it! How dare you start the fight? That young man with tattoos behind his back looked viciously at Wang Xian and growled angrily. Start the fight? Wang Xian looked emotionlessly at this young man and grabbed another bottle of beer from the table. He did not make use of his great strength and did not bother to talk to them. This was because this group of people wouldn't require him to use his full strength. Moreover, he did not like to talk while fighting. Scumbags! You guys are too much! Seeing that Wang Xian had started the fight, Wang Dahai, who was standing behind Wang Xian, was initially hesitant. He clenched his fist tightly before grabbing another bottle of beer. His brother had already started the fight for his sake. How could he possibly just stand there and watch? What kind of brother would he be if he just stood by? The other few young men found it hard to accept, as they had never expected these two young men to start the fight the moment they couldn't agree on things. Furthermore, they were so ruthless. The moment Wang Xian saw Wang Dahai readying himself, he revealed a smile. That's how a brother should be. They should fight together, carry guns together, sleep together and visit prostitutes together. Fuck! Bastards! Don't think I'm afraid of you! The other three young men were looking hideous and immediately charged towards Wang Dahai and Wang Xian. However, there was no way their power and strength could be compared with Wang Xian. Bam bam! The two bottles of beer landed on two other people. As for Wang Dahai, he was 1.8 meters tall and weighed over 190 caddies. Most people wouldn't be a match for him. Therefore, the three young men were put to the ground easily. They must be eager to die. How dare they touch us? A young man held onto his head and looked menacing. You guys! How dare you guys cause trouble here? Rongrong shrieked and pointed to Wang Xian and Wang Dahai. Her face had turned as white as a sheet. Grr, fight, don't stop. Can't even defeat two when there are four of you? Trash! Get up and fight! The crowd in the bar noticed the fight and started cheering loudly. They were here for fun and it was better for them when the bar was livelier. Weak and fragile! Wang Xian looked coldly at the four young men struggling to get up. He grabbed another bottle and taunted. Come, let's continue! How dare you! You're going to die! The tattooed young man, whose head was covered in blood, stared at Wang Xian. He was seething with anger. If you can walk out of Love Bar tonight, I wouldn't be able to show myself here in the future. What's the matter? Who's fighting? Who's fighting? Get out if you want to fight! At this moment, 5 to 6 security guards of the bar rushed over and shouted loudly. Fuck! Wait here if you dare! Although the tattooed young man saw the security guards rushing over, he showed no fear and roared loudly. What's the matter? Still want to fight? When the middle-aged security guard heard him, he frowned and walked over. If I don't cripple these two brats, my name wouldn't be Fifth Master Gong. The young man with the tattoo took out his phone, ignored the security guard and dialed a number. The group of security guards frowned as they turned their attention to this young man with tattoos. Boss, it's me, Fifth Master Gong. One of the security guards was shocked and murmured to the middle-aged man beside him. Fifth Master Gong, if you are causing trouble, please get out. Don't do it in the Love Bar. The middle-aged security said to the young man with tattoos. I'll leave after crippling these two brats. They dare to touch me? I'll kill them! Fifth Master Gong's face sank and he roared loudly. Wang Xian. What should we do now? Wang Dahai could sense the savage vibes from Fifth Master Gong. He wasn't even afraid of the security guards. At this moment, Wang Dahai felt a little flustered. The reason why he joined the fight was also because he was in the heat of the moment. However, the other party was clearly calling for reinforcements and had threatened to cripple them. This made him a little scared. What should we do? It's obvious to continue whacking them before their reinforcement arrives. We couldn't be waiting for them to be here to beat us up, right? Wang Xian smiled at Wang Dahai. To Wang Dahai's astonishment, Wang Xian charged towards Fifth Master Gong directly. Everyone was shocked. They had not seen anyone who fought in such a manner. Under normal circumstances, when the other parties were all put to the ground and were calling for reinforcements, the one who started the fight would typically run or just wait. However, this young man started the fight once again. When Wang Xian charged over, he saw that Fifth Master Gong was filled with shock and disbelief. He smiled at him. Aren't you calling people over? In that case, I shall see if I can kill you before your guys arrive. The moment he finished his sentence, he smashed the bottle in his hand on Fifth Master Gong's arm. Arg! Fifth Master Gong let out a horrifying shriek. His arm had already been deformed. His face was filled with horror. He isn't playing by the rules. Continue! Wang Xian smiled again at Fifth Master Gong. Under his horrified gaze, he smashed towards the other arm. Bam! Crack, crack! The sound of bottles and bones cracking propagated once again. The crowd was all shocked by the development. That young man really wants to kill Fifth Master Gong. The expressions on the other three injured young men were as white as sheets as they looked towards Wang Xian. As for the other three girls, they were lost and flustered. They cuddled together and were filled with fear as they looked at Wang Xian. Your guys are a little slow. Wang Xian smiled sarcastically as he spoke to Fifth Master Gong and grabbed another bottle. No. 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 Please. Fifth Master Gong was completely petrified. He was truly afraid this time. Who the fuck dared to touch my brother? At this moment, an angry growl sounded. Fifth Master Gong was thrilled and stared at Wang Xian menacingly. You are finished! You are finished! Ha ha! Over 10 people rushed over. Everyone in the group was burly, and a middle-aged man in front of the group looked coldly over. Bam! Wang Xian still smashed the bottle over as the shriek of pain sounded once again. Fuck, you dare to continue! The group that charged over saw Wang Xian smashing the bottle down and heard the wail of Fifth Master Gong. Among them, one burly young man dashed towards Wang Xian directly. Bam! With a simple sweeping kick, the young man that was dashing over was sent flying back and landed heavily on the sofa by the side. Instantly, everyone was stunned. Expert. This young man isn't simple. No wonder he wasn't afraid of anything. Wang Xian looked emotionlessly at them before revealing a faint smile. Just a dozen people? I'm afraid this might not be enough. The group that arrived with momentum frowned when they saw how calm Wang Xian was. This young man had just sent one of them flying away with a single kick. Moreover, the man that was sent flying didn't get up after the kick. It was clear that the young man was strong. The bar quietened down suddenly as everyone looked to the young man standing in the middle. He had the vibes of being able to stop 10,000 men. Chapter 103, Is it over? Get Brother Panther here! The middle-aged man who was standing in the middle told the young man. A dozen people did not make a move against Wang Xian. Lad, there are not many fearless people like you. Aren't you afraid of death? The middle-aged man threw a glance at the dreadful Fifth Master Gong before he spoke to Wang Xian while staring at him. Heh, just a few of you. Wang Xian sneered at them. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows as he looked at the young man in front of him with bewilderment. Fearless and composed, disregarding all of them. An ordinary young man could not possibly possess such a demeanor. The middle-aged man, unlike Fifth Master Gong, knew how to think. The young man in front of him must have some backings. However, he took out a cigarette casually and lit it. Lad, arrogant people will not have good endings. Once Brother Panther arrived, this lad would have to pay the price regardless of how formidable he was. On the other hand, a young man trotted to a private room along with a security guard of the pub. Brother Panther, someone beat our buddies up. As soon as the door was opened, that young man quickly reported to the middle-aged man inside. What? There were about 6 people in the room. The one who was known as Brother Panther was rather muscular. He was slightly stunned before he stood up. Where are they? Brother Panther calmly asked. They are in the pub now. Fifth Master Gong fought with 2 young men, and he got beaten up badly, the young man replied at once. Oh? In my pub? A young man sitting in the middle lifted his chin puzzledly. With a smile, he said, Interesting. Let's check it out. Brother Panther, second master, the one who beat Fifth Master Gong, was a juvenile. He is formidable. He can send a person flying with just a kick, said the young man at the side. Regardless of how formidable he is, I'll not let him off for beating up my buddy, Brother Panther said coldly. He turned to the young man at the side. Second master, sorry to cause you trouble over here. It's all right. The young man gestured as he did not seem to be bothered by it. Looked like he was in a good mood today. Fine, I want to see who dares to lay his finger on my buddy. Seeing that second master was not mindful, cold radiance flashed in Brother Panther's eyes as he looked at the place where people were gathering. He bellowed, How dare he beat up my people? Let me see how formidable he is. The surrounding people were shocked as they quickly turned around and looked at the source of the voice. It's Brother Panther, Brother Panther. It's really Brother Panther. I guess that juvenile is doomed. Some people exchanged whispers in fear when they saw Brother Panther walking over. As Wang Dahai listened to the whispers around him, he displayed an anxious look on his face as he clenched his fists tightly. Wang Xian watched the approaching people emotionlessly. But he raised his eyebrow when he spotted someone. The second master who was next to Brother Panther froze as the smile on his face slowly disappeared. Were you the one who hit my buddy? Brother Panther glared at Wang Xian coldly as he pointed his finger at him. Brother Panther, it was him. Brother Panther, you must avenge me. Fifth Master Gong, who was lying in a pool of blood, said with a hideous face. However, the second master who was standing beside Brother Panther quickly trotted towards Wang Xian while they were exchanging conversations. Young Master Wang, I did not expect to see you here. This is my fault. The second master ran over and greeted him with fear. He was gritting his teeth. Damn, this bunch of useless things. He called some friends here for a celebration as he managed to pull some strings with Wang Xian. Never did he expect that he would encounter such a thing. He swept his gaze across Fifth Master Gong, who was lying on the floor, with a strong desire to destroy him for good. It's nothing. I just fought with some of them. I'll leave this in your hands. My friend and I will go back now. Let's meet for lunch someday, said Wang Xian to the young man before him, who was the director's son he met yesterday. Wang Xian peered at Wang Dahai, who was looking worried and gloomy. Yes, young Master Wang. Leave this to me, and I'll make sure you're happy with the outcome. Director's son nodded hastily in assurance. Okay. Wang Xian nodded. He walked to Wang Dahai and said, Let's go, Dahai. Wang Dahai was stunned as he followed Wang Xian outside in bewilderment. Everyone was stunned. What's going on? Brother Panther was dumbfounded too when he saw the second master running to the juvenile and speaking to him respectfully. Eventually, he witnessed the departure of the juvenile. He had a mixed expression when he saw the juvenile walking past him. But he remained silent as second master walked towards him. Second master, he... Brother Panther pointed shockingly at the juvenile who left. Director's son took out a cigarette slowly. Panther, don't you know how to manage your subordinates? Brother Panther froze as he panicked while looking at Director Sunday. Second master, what have I done wrong? Please, let me know. Break their limbs and make sure they disappear from Rivertown. Teach these 3 girls a lesson too. Director's son said slowly. What director's son said shocked everyone around him. What's going on? Why did the second master give such instructions? That juvenile? I know you have a lot of questions in your head. What's the reason for the celebration tonight? Director's son looked at Brother Panther and asked him passively. Because you befriended such a formidable expert. As Brother Panther spoke, his eyes were agati. Second master, could that juvenile be? Director's son nodded his head slowly. I wish I could save some face for you. But it was your men who courted their own death. Brother Panther was appalled as trepidation filled his eyes. Today, second master's son had invited them out to have some drinks. Obviously, he was in a chirpy mood. Hence, they were puzzled and asked him about it. In the end, the second master told them proudly that he had befriended a formidable person who was one of the supreme people in the entire Rivertown. His remark shocked them. They would look up to anyone who was favored by the second master. On top of that, the second master made another remark which startled them the most. He was someone who could make old Xian bow and apologize. They were unable to stay composed after hearing these words. That person is old Xian. The second master could enjoy his current status because he worked for the Xian family. I know what to do. Brother Panther took a deep breath and stared coldly at the fifth master Gong. Fifth master Gong, you're gonna get us killed. Break their limbs. A resentful bellow shocked the rest of the bar. What's the situation now? Fifth Master Gong and his bunch of friends, including the 3 girls, stared at Brother Panther with disbelief and despair. Is it over? Asked Wang Dahai, who was following behind Wang Xian as he looked over his shoulder dumbfoundedly. Yes, it's over. What else do you want? All of a sudden, Wang Dahai hugged Wang Xian and cried. Sob, old Wang, I'm out of love. Out of love? I never thought that Rong was such a person. Chapter 104 Military Training. Wang Dahai had just gotten dumped. Using his own words, it was being dumped before getting into a relationship. Rong was the girl he'd liked the most since he was born. However, the shame was that her character was poor. Nonetheless, this didn't stop Wang Dahai from feeling like he got dumped. He dragged Wang Xian along to drink for the entire night in memory of his failed relationship. They drank from the wee hours of the day until dawn broke, and Wang Xian accompanied him for the entire night. When he woke up, it was already 4 in the afternoon. Dahai. Wang Xian tried to wake Wang Dahai. No. Shit, it's already 4 p.m. I still have to report to class at night. Wang Dahai exclaimed and quickly sat up. My head is aching from the drinking. Let's get up and go get dinner. Let's go, I'll treat you to something good. First-grade restaurant? Wang Dahai's eyes lit up. They'd had a long conversation the previous night, and Wang Xian told him about the fact that he was the boss of first-grade restaurant. Brother Xian! Let's go and have something good to relieve my sorrows of being dumped. Wang Dahai jumped up immediately. From his excited looks, he didn't look like he just got dumped. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. He changed into another set of clothes before giving Xiaoyu a call. I've also called my sister and her roommates. Oh right, where's Zhangwen and Zhang Feng? Zhangwen and Zhang Feng were the other 2 people in the same dormitory. In his dormitory, Wang Dahai and Wang Xian were closer to each other. Zhangwen and Zhang Feng were closer to each other. Nonetheless, the 4 of them had a cordial relationship. I don't know. They must be with their girlfriends. Wang Xian nodded his head but still called them to verify. However, they were accompanying their girlfriends and couldn't come. Wang Xian didn't press further and headed towards the girls' dormitory with Wang Dahai. Brother! Xiaoyu, Yuan, and Su Qian walked over. Xiaoyu walked to his side joyously and held on to his arm. Before we go get dinner, let me introduce him. He is my brother, Wang Dahai. Wang Xian explained to the group of girls. After which, he introduced the girls to Wang Dahai. Hello, pretty! Wang Dahai chuckled. However, his attention fell on Xian and remained there for some time. Let's go for dinner. Wang Xian laughed. Xiao Yu, are you guys starting on military training tomorrow? Yeah, 20 days of military training. That's horrible. Xiao Yu pouted and said grumpily. After the military training, we probably will tan too. The group chuckled and arrived at First Grade Restaurant. First Grade Restaurant had returned to normal operations by today. However, it was still filled with customers and the popularity of First Grade Restaurant hadn't subsided on the internet. Currently, the net profit of First Grade Restaurant could reach approximately $1 million a day. It could be considered very high. However, when he recalled the materials he needed to build the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian could feel his head starting to ache. During dinner, Wang Xian called Guan Shuqing over too. This made Wang Dahai a little dumbfounded as he gave a thumbs up to Wang Xian. After the group finished their dinner, they headed back towards the school. The school was starting officially today. Wang Xian and Guan Shuqing were chatting happily. After not seeing each other for 2 days, they had a lot to talk about. As for Wang Dahai, he got closer to Xian and was trying to impart onto her his experiences at the University of Rivertown. After parting with the girls, Wang Dahai looked at the back view of Xian and suddenly blurted out. Haze, old Wang, I feel that I'm in love again. Wang Xian was drinking from a bottle. When he heard what Wang Dahai said, he almost spit it out. Brother, you are in love again? Wang Xian looked at him in astonishment. I'm serious about it this time. Did you notice how cute Xian is? It's especially so for her plump face. Old Wang, my spring is coming again. I've made up my mind. I'm going to woo her. Wang Dahai spoke passionately. However, when he saw Wang Xian simply walking towards the classroom, he quickly asked, Hey. Old Wang, do you think I stand a chance? Yes, you do. Wang Xian replied helplessly. That will do. I've decided to bring water to Xian during her military training period and show her warmth. Wang Xian was speechless. When the two of them arrived in the class, most of the students were already there. Wang Xian specialized in international economics and trade. Therefore, the guys far exceeded the number of girls. Moreover, beautiful girls were few and far between. The prettiest of them all was Su Mei. However, she was very flirtatious and many did not have a good impression of her. When he stepped into the room, Wang Xian immediately felt gazes upon him. Turning around, he saw Su Mei shifting away her gaze in a hurry. In her eyes there was fear. Wang Xian smiled and found 2 seats for him and Wang Dahai. Soon, the school counselor walked in. The school counselor was a young man. After taking attendance, going through the questions they did for examination last year, and reminding the students to study diligently, he left. The second year was much easier than the first year. There weren't many miscellaneous matters to attend to and they had more free time. After 2 lessons in the morning the second day, Wang Dahai rushed to Wang Xian. Let's go, old Wang. Have you found out what I've asked you about? Didn't you add her on WeChat? Can't you ask her yourself? Wang Xian looked at him, feeling speechless. You don't understand. I couldn't make it so obvious. It would be horrible if she thinks that I am the same as those casual guys. Quick! Wang Dahai was pressing him and Wang Xian had no choice but to walk ahead helplessly. Let's go. I'll bring you over. Seeing Wang Dahai regaining the vitality of spring, Wang Xian was still very happy about it. At the very least, Wang Dahai wasn't severely affected by being dumped. The sun was vicious today and this was something that the Year 1 students wouldn't like to see. As the intense sunlight shone down, this group of spoiled students all felt miserable. Wang Xian brought Wang Dahai to a spot in the field, found a place and sat down. This is where my sister and her classmates are having their military training. Xian is also here. Let us wait a while. When it's their break time, we will go bring them some water. Wang Dahai chuckled as he looked around fervently, trying to spot Xian. Wang Xian looked across and noticed that, after the girls put on the military cap, it wasn't easy for him to see the girls' looks. Therefore, he took out his mobile phone to play. Perhaps the students just had their break. Therefore, the tutors didn't give them a break despite Wang Xian and Wang Dahai waiting for half an hour. Under the intense sun, one could see that every student's face was turning a little red. Wang Dahai was a little plump and didn't take the heat well. He wiped off the perspiration on his forehead. It's so hot today. Luckily, there was rain for a few days during our military training last year. Only by going through trials and tribulations can you get your girl. Wang Xian looked at him and chuckled. Oh no! Someone has fainted. At this moment, a scream sounded from the side. Wang Xian and Wang Dahai immediately looked over and saw a student lying on the ground. The military officer immediately carried her up and ran towards Wang Xian and Wang Dahai's location where there was more shade. Chapter 105, Sacred Followers Guild. Get out of the way. Can those two students give up their seats? The instructor yelled at Wang Xian and Wang Dahai as he carried the student over. She must have fainted from the heat stroke. Wang Dahai was shocked as he stood up hastily and gave up his seat. Wang Xian also stood up when he saw the instructor lay the girl down on the ground. At this time, two doctors ran over. Apart from the school doctors, the regular hospital doctors were present during the military training at the University of Rivertown to prevent any accidents. Two doctors, a middle-aged man and a 27 to 28-year-old female doctor, sprinted over. Dr. Sun, let me take a look first. She must be suffering from heat stroke, said the middle-aged school doctor to Dr. Sun as he carried his medical equipment. Sure, Dr. Song, you can examine her first. Dr. Sun nodded. At this time, Wang Xian felt Wang Dahai tugging his arm. He peered over with doubt. Wang Dahai was pouting his lips in a direction. Wang Xian looked over. That doctor was about 28 years old. She wore a white gown that couldn't hide her bosomy figure. Her white gown was pushed up at the chest area. She had a fair and refined profile. With bun-up hair, she looked just like a goddess. Wang Xian was in a stupor for a moment, as he found her familiar. He then recalled the same Dr. Sun at the previous accident the other time. Her body feels hot, it doesn't seem like she got heat stroke. The anxious voice of the middle-aged school doctor was heard. Give her some cold water before we apply some medicine on her. She's not having a heat stroke? Didn't the students have their checkup in advance? Check her heartbeat to see if there are any problems. Dr. Sun continued. Let me do it since it's more appropriate. Sure. The middle-aged school doctor agreed immediately while Dr. Sun took over. Dr. Sun took out her stethoscope immediately and placed it at the girl's chest area. Gosh, her heart is beating very slowly. Dr. Sun's expression had a drastic change. She flipped the eyelid of the girl. Her eyes are red. This is not a heat stroke. Her breathing is weak. We must send her to the hospital immediately, said the middle-aged school doctor as he placed his finger on the girl's nose. What's going on? Is she all right? Just then, two school in-charges rushed over and consulted. It's not a heat stroke. It should be some other illness. We need to get her to the hospital now for an examination, the middle-aged school doctor replied immediately. How serious? The two school teachers frowned. Hurry, get the car now. We're sending her to the hospital before it's too late. Upon seeing the motionless girl, Dr. Sun spoke anxiously. Okay, I'll get the car now, said the two school teachers who were panicked too. The impact would be huge if students had any accidents during military training in school. Let me take a look. At this time, Wang Xian spoke when he saw the frail-looking girl. You! Upon hearing Wang Xian, everyone turned to look at him. Don't you fool around, said the middle-aged school doctor impatiently as he realized how young and inexperienced Wang Xian was. Wait, you! Dr. Sun looked at Wang Xian as she observed him carefully with a pair of refined eyes. You were the one in that accident. Yes, let me take a look. Wang Xian nodded and said to Dr. Sunday. Okay, go ahead. Radiance flickered in the eyes of Dr. Sun as she stared at Wang Xian with curiosity. Previously, they did a detailed examination of the young men and the young lady from the car accident back in the hospital. What shocked all of them in the hospital was that the broken leg of the young girl had miraculously healed by itself. On the other hand, the young man's injuries were even more severe as his ribs were fractured. Yet the bones had been fixed in some unique way. It was shocking to all the doctors. Such a situation could be considered a miracle in the medical field. When Dr. Sun learned about the report, the first thing she thought of was that juvenile. She did not expect to meet him here. The middle-aged school doctor and the two school teachers were slightly stunned by what Dr. Sun had said. But they did not stop him. "I'll do it!" However, a juvenile in his military uniform walked out suddenly just when Wang Xian stood up. The juvenile was 1.8 meters tall, looking cheerful and handsome. His confident vibe was even more intense when he was in a military training outfit. "Out of my way! Let me do it!" The juvenile looked at Wang Xian and spoke immediately while he fished out an ID from his right pocket. "This is?" The middle-aged school doctor opened his eyes wide with a shocked expression. He exclaimed, "Sacred Followers Guild, Medical Saint! I'm not a medical saint yet. I'm just an apprentice." The juvenile gave a faint smile as he held his chin high when he heard the exclamation from the middle-aged school doctor. Confident, handsome, imposing. Unexpected. Unexpected! The middle-aged school doctor was overwhelmed with surprise. "Little Miracle Doctor, come and take a look! Sacred Followers Guild!" Dr. Sun was also taken aback as she gazed at the juvenile. Sacred Followers Guild was one of the two sacred places in the medical industry. Almost everyone in the medical industry knew about Sacred Followers Guild. At the same time, all the medical students were hoping to have a chance to learn in the sacred place. However, only very few doctors managed to pass the test. Any apprentices who walked out from the Sacred Followers Guild were equipped with formidable medical skills. The middle-aged school doctor spoke respectfully to the juvenile, and the juvenile was enjoying such treatment. He wriggled his finger, and the silver needles appeared in his hand. "Awesome!" The middle-aged school doctor was amazed by the appearance of the silver needles. "Excuse me." The juvenile pushed Wang Xian away and squatted down immediately. "Little Miracle Doctor, please take a look at this student to see what's wrong with her," said the two school teachers respectfully. Apparently, they had heard of the reputation of the Sacred Followers Guild. "Okay, don't worry. If it's not something serious, I can cure her with a silver needle." The juvenile drew his lips and spoke confidently. "That'll do." The two teachers heaved a sigh of relief as they smiled. Then they looked at Wang Xian and Wang Dahai who were gathering around them. "Two of you please give way. Don't interrupt the little miracle doctor while he is treating. Sacred Followers Guild!" Wang Xian took 2 steps back as he gazed at the juvenile with surprise. He had heard old Shui mentioning the Sacred Followers Guild. They were like the ultimate existence in the entire medical industry. The members of Sacred Followers Guild came from a mix of the underworld and society. Some of them were commoners while some were martial artists. However, the majority of them were mainly martial artists since they would circulate their internal energy during their treatment. The juvenile placed his hand on the young girl's hand and closed his eyes. "Her?" The juvenile knit his eyebrows slightly. "What is it, little miracle doctor? Is her illness serious?" asked the two teachers when they saw the juvenile frowning. "It's a little tricky." In a flash, the juvenile took the silver needle in his hand and inserted it into one of the acupoints on the girl's arm. "I can treat her, but it will take some time." Chapter 106, Technique. Chapter 106, Technique. This girl's body is deficient and lacks a type of element. This made her body weak and made her suffer from breathing difficulties. She will still need some time to recuperate. The juvenile wiggled his fingers and another dozen silver needles appeared in his hand. He continued with a smile. "I'll execute silver needle treatment on her to first wake her up." When the juvenile completed his sentence, he moved his hands so quickly that they formed after images which confused the onlooking crowd. "Incredible! Absolutely incredible. You are indeed from the Sacred Followers Guild. The techniques of hidden needles and laying out needles are truly incredible. Yeah. I would have never thought that the University of Rivertown would have such an incredible expert. Looking at the medical skills of this young miracle doctor, you are more than qualified to become a tutor in our medical branch. The middle-aged school doctor and lead each exclaimed in disbelief. It's just a simple trick and isn't anything. The juvenile revealed a satisfied look but still replied in an arrogant manner. If this is a simple trick for this young miracle doctor, my medical skills will be nothing in comparison. Incredible! The middle-aged school doctor gave him a thumbs up. Hee hee! The juvenile smiled faintly as he controlled the silver needle in his hand. Soon, the girl opened her eyes gradually. What happened? The girl looked around, feeling a little lost. Awesome! You are indeed worthy of the name of Miracle Doctor. The two leads were thrilled and remarked excitedly. All right, for the coming week, rest well and have some beef and fruits. Together with my silver needles treatment, I can guarantee that you will recover within a week. As the young man waved his hand, all the silver needles were kept within his hand. So strong! Dr. Sun, who was on the side, also looked at the girl with amazement. Basic operations. The arrogant juvenile nodded his head and suddenly looked to Wang Xian. This student seemed to be thinking of providing treatment too a while ago. Did you learn medical skills previously? Wang Xian was taken aback, shook his head, smiled and replied. I know a little about healing. TSK. If you don't understand it well, it's better than you don't try providing treatment to others. Otherwise, you might make it worse if you misdiagnose the symptoms. The juvenile spoke in a tone similar to how a senior would guide a junior. This young miracle doctor is right. Misdiagnosing would only harm the patient. If you aren't confident, it's better if you don't act rashly. Not only does this young miracle doctor have extraordinary medical skills, but his medical ethics are also worth respecting, the middle-aged man said as he tried to lick the juvenile's boots. I'm just a little more gifted than others. The juvenile shook his head and continued. Please send this student to the dormitory to rest. Give her something to eat in an hour or two, and she should be recovering well. For the following days, I'll perform a few additional rounds of treatments, and she will recover fully. All right, thank you, young miracle doctor. Thank you, young miracle doctor. The two leads quickly replied. Why don't we excuse the young miracle doctor from training and let him be a doctor here? If any students are to encounter any issues, we would also be more assured with this young miracle doctor with us. Yeah, that will work too. The juvenile nodded his head and revealed a prideful smile. With me around, there wouldn't be any issues. Yeah? Definitely. With you around, we will feel more reassured too. The middle-aged school doctor quickly seconded. Hayes. You two students, if you guys are free, can you help us bring this girl back to her room? One of the leads said to Wang Xian and Wang Dahai. All right. Wang Dahai nodded his head and squatted down, ready to help the girl up. Let me do it! Wang Xian extended his hand over to stop Wang Dahai. He bent down and placed his hand on the stomach area of the girl. Huh! What are you doing? When the middle-aged school doctor saw Wang Xian placing his hand on the girl's stomach, he immediately frowned. I'm just taking a look. Wang Xian lifted his head and smiled. What are you looking for? You can't possibly be thinking that you could cure her? The middle-aged doctor said sarcastically. Hurry up! The young miracle doctor has already seen her. Stop causing trouble! Hee hee! Don't move recklessly if you don't know anything. Do you think you could tell her condition just by placing your hand on her? Childish! The young man looked at Wang Xian with contempt. Hee hee! Wang Xian laughed and had a cold expression. I was still wondering how incredible one from the Sacred Followers Guild is. It seems that you are just average. What the hell are you saying? Do you even understand what Sacred Followers Guild represents? When Wang Xian completed his sentence, the middle-aged school doctor standing by the side immediately shouted at Wang Xian mercilessly. What did you say? I dare you to repeat it. When that juvenile heard Wang Xian, his face sank too. Sacred Followers Guild isn't something you could humiliate. What the hell are you saying? Hurry and apologize to this young miracle doctor. The two leads also condemned Wang Xian solemnly. If everyone in Sacred Followers Guild is at your level. Hee hee. Wang Xian looked at the group of people shouting at him, and his expression turned chilly. He looked to the girl and moved his finger, tapping on over 10 spots on the girl. Brat, are you humiliating me? The juvenile's eyes flickered as he stared at Wang Xian. He moved his fingers and needles appeared within his hands. Wang Xian ignored him and simply injected vitality of the wood element into the girl's body. With his current strength, he wouldn't have to exhaust dragon energy for treatment, and could simply rely on the vitality of the wood element to cure the girl. The fatigued girl suddenly felt strength returning to her body. She opened her eyes and looked at Wang Xian in astonishment. Brat, I'm talking to you. Seeing that Wang Xian wasn't replying to him, he remarked. Get up! Wang Xian stood up gradually and gave the juvenile a harsh stare. He then extended his hand over to the girl. Thank you. The girl nodded her head and grabbed onto Wang Xian's hands. She was blushing and stood up with Wang Xian's assistance. The crowd was stunned, their attention was all on the girl. Dr. Sun, who had been by the side all along, was thrilled. She immediately asked, Are you feeling any discomfort? Nope. When brother tapped on my body, I felt very comfortable. Moreover, I'm feeling a lot better than before. The girl replied as she stole glances at Wang Xian with a blushing face. You just have a small issue, and it could be solved with a little treatment. Have regular meals in the future, and don't lag behind on your military training. Wang Xian instructed directly. The truth was that he didn't know the source of the girl's problem. However, it didn't matter. The dense vitality of the wood element had eradicated the issue at the source. Besides that, the girl's body composition was a little weak, and military training would be beneficial for her. All right, brother, thank you. The girl nodded her head. Wang Xian nodded his head in response and turned to the juvenile beside him. He lifted his head and said with contempt, If members of the Sacred Followers Guild are like you, they aren't anything special. Trash! You! When the juvenile heard Wang Xian, he held on to the silver needles in his hand tightly, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. The middle-aged school doctor and the two leads were stunned. This time, they didn't comment anything when they heard Wang Xian. Wang Xian had simply tapped a few times on the girl and she was cured. As for this juvenile from the Sacred Followers Guild, he claimed that the girl required a week of treatment. One could easily tell the difference between them. Recalling how they had chided Wang Xian just a while ago, the group was feeling embarrassed currently. You are from the Medical Saint sect? What techniques did you just use? The juvenile stared intensely at Wang Xian and questioned him. Brat, I'm not from the Medical Saint sect. As for medical techniques, I only understood a little and am not as well known as your Sacred Followers Guild. Hee hee. Wang Xian looked at the juvenile with mocking eyes. As for the technique, it's called anyhow pressure points technique. Hee hee. Brat, don't be so cocky when you don't have the capabilities. Otherwise, you are just bringing shame to the Sacred Followers Guild. Wang Xian imitated how the juvenile had acted previously and chided as though he was simply educating a junior as a senior. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.